Welcome to the Scale Model Podcast. In this podcast, we aim to entertain, inform, and promote the hobby of scale model kit building with interviews, reviews, and news about the hobby. The Scale Model Podcast is recorded bi-weekly and is available where your favorite podcasts are found, including iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher, as well as on our website at scalemodelpodcast.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider leaving a review. It does help to get our shows out to more modelers. We also publish extra video content and complete episodes on our YouTube channel. Feel free to like and subscribe to the Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Scale Model Podcast. There's also a Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Scale Model Podcast. Your Patreon support helps us cover hosting costs and gives you access to extra content as well as prize giveaways. Welcome to episode 54 of the Scale Model Podcast, sponsored by Goodman Models. My name is Stuart Clark, and we've got an awesome new show for you tonight. In introducing a brand new, one of the new stable, shall we say, of guest co-hosts. Sounds like wrestlers, actually. I want to introduce you to my good friend from the deepest, darkest recesses from the shores of Lake Erie in his secret hideout, Mr. Jeff Hayland. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm very good. You're making me sound like a Bond villain, and I rather like that, actually.
Well, see, I figured you would. Jeff and I are in the same model club, IPMS London. In fact, I'm the president, and he's the secretary. So his role basically is to keep things organized and keep me from getting the club sued.
Yeah, that's my past profession before
Yeah.
I retired when I was a lawyer. Yes.
Well, you're not the only one. Like our good friend Dave down in Kentucky, he's a lawyer as well, and he was actually talking on the Plastic Model Mojo how there seems to be a fairly large percentage of lawyers and other professionals in the hobby space.
That's a very scary thought, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah, but it makes sense, ways to de-stress and stuff like that. So, okay, so basically, let's kind of tell the world all about Jeff. Well, at least the modeling proportions. So, what do you build? How long you been in it, et cetera, et cetera?
I build whatever interests me, and that varies regularly, and I have a history of never actually finishing anything. I think the only thing I ever finished, and that's actually stretching the concept of finished, is a Wingnut Wings Albatross,
Okay.
D5A, and I did it because I felt the kit deserved to be finished. It was one of those. It's like a Bandai kit. I mean, it is. They are the best kits ever. It's a tragic loss, in my view, that Wingnuts has gone under. But no, I'm interested in everything. I'm 64 years old. I'm an ancient creature, and I grew up in the space race, and I love real and sci-fi spacecraft. I love aircraft. I used to fly a long time ago, and
no, I didn't know that.
I
didn't know.
No,
Okay.
When I was 16, I bought my first car, which was a '69 MGB. That was a complete basket case, and I learned a lot about cars. And I worked in a garage to do that. And as part of that process, the money I made went into paying for flying lessons. So I started flying when I was 17, and I've got about 55 hours in a Cessna 150. Cross-country solos, but I never actually got my license because by the time I did, I was at university and I couldn't afford anything else.
Yeah, no, I did gliders at Air Cadet, so it's kind of a similar thing. So yeah, good fun.
Yeah. No, I envy you. I've always wanted to do a glider. The 150 was a hell of a noisy plane.
Yes. No, I've been in a 150 a couple of times, a couple of 172s, but yeah, exactly. No ILS or anything like that. Just strictly visual.
Yep.
But no. I should point out. Well, you recently completed that wonderful Bandai Star Destroyer with the fiber optics. That looks good.
Yeah,
I thought that was done.
Thank you very much. That was close to done. I mean, but the thing with this hobby is nothing is ever really done because your capabilities improve hopefully over time. And I look at it and I think, I could have done that a little better. I could add a little bit here, a little bit there. No, move on. There's too many other things in the
Well,
stash. I've got to build these things.
I know. Well, you've been busy, and you're also been like you say, been finding the old stuff from the shelf of doom and bringing those back out. So yeah, it's pretty awesome to see.
It's been fun. It's been fun. I do have a lot of kits from way back in the late '80s, early '90s that
Hmm.
I got well down the road in the way we built models then. You know how
Hmm.
painting and detailing and weathering in those days was quite a different story to what it is today. And looking at them now, and after about probably 8 moves and 30 years, a lot of them are broken. And so I actually got around to pulling them out, and I have grandsons now, and they love to play with granddad's aircraft. So
Awesome.
that means I do a lot of repairs.
Well, that's good. It's not as bad for some of the older stuff if something happens, and then I needless to say, I'm sure the albatross is out of reach.
Oh yes, it
Yeah,
is. I have a shelf of worthiness,
self-worth. I like that. I think you should patent that. Shelf of worthiness.
and they cannot go near my shelf of worthiness. So
That's awesome. I like that. Okay, so let's move on then. So again, welcome. We think you're going to do a fine job here. Like I say, we have a pretty forgiving audience. All 17 million of them. No, I'm just kidding. No, everyone's good. So first, speaking of podcasts, we want to talk about. There's a brand new modeling podcast is out, and myself and the other two shows were approached by these guys, by TJ, Doug, and Scott, and they've just dropped their first episode called the Plastic Posse Podcast. And I did notice today it is starting to reach the various podcast player feeds. So I've downloaded mine. I listened to it on the computer the other day, and they're going to be focusing a lot on some sci-fi, a little bit of armor, figures like Games Workshop figures, stuff like that, and they're all over the place. So I believe two of them are in Utah, and one is in Washington, near Washington D.C. So they're all through the U.S. But I think it's going to be fun. We had a nice chat. I had a nice chat with Scott recently, and I think it's going to be a great addition for podcast listeners who are also modelers, because I know many of you enjoy listening to both On the Bench and Plastic Model Mojo. So this is another one I think you'll be able to listen to on the bench. So, it's going to be really good. Do you find you listen to podcasts a lot, Scott,
uh,
when you're on the bench, or
Scott, no, it's Jeff.
Jeff? Sorry,
It's
see, it's going to
Doug.
be one of those nights.
See, it's Doug and Scott and TJ are the Plastic Posse
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
I'm just the idiot who made the mistake of saying yes, Stuart. I'll be
Well,
happy to do this
I
tonight.
haven't called you ass yet, so
No. The evening is young. The evening is
yeah,
young.
yeah.
There's much more to
And we should say we are drinking alcohol. So
go. It's Sunday night. Why would you not?
exactly,
Any,
exactly. Anyway, go ahead.
I did want to say one thing. I did want to say I have listened to your podcast a number of times, and I really enjoyed. Apart from just listening to your pearls of wisdom, I really enjoyed Anthony, and it's unfortunate that he is not. Well, it's not unfortunate. It's actually kind of good in a lot of ways that he's not able to be here because he's with his family and he's dealing with that element of his life. But Anthony's a great guy, and I kind of I don't think I can possibly replace him, but I'm looking forward to giving it a shot. So
Well,
Anthony, if you're listening, Anthony, hey, good for you.
no, and we're still going to hear him because he's going to be doing some interviews, and he'll be back now and again. So
Yeah, but those are all
exactly.
canned interviews. It's fake. It's not like he's really here. In
Oh,
fact,
okay.
we could be doing that with some kind of technology, as far as we know. We could be replacing Anthony with Goodman Heavy Industries technology.
Here we go. You mean like a Goodman robot?
I think Goodman Robot, bang, right on.
There you go. That could be a possibility.
Honestly,
Okay. All
brand
right.
that.
Hey, I'll have to look into that. We'll see what happens. I'll have to check with his wife, see if that's allowed. We always have to check with the boss, as we know, right?
My wife would kill you if she thought that you were referring to her as the boss.
Well, she who must be obeyed.
No, she doesn't go that way either. No,
Oh wow, lucky you. Okay.
no. If but
No, I'm kidding.
I know my place.
Yes, exactly. So there you go.
Yes.
All right, moving on. The Golden Sprue Awards. This is something a gentleman out of Ireland has started. Warren Starrett. Again, I had a chance to speak with him via chat a little while ago, and he was also interviewed on our good friends at On the Bench out of Australia. So this is something he decided to start setting up during lockdown, and he actually so he's basically doing it's like the equivalent of the People's Choice Awards or something like that. So basically, for the first time, the scale modeling community has the opportunity to nominate and vote online for their favorite new kit releases of 2020, along with products. So the nominations are now opened. So he's inviting people to nominate your choices for the best new kits of the year, together with your favorite paint, weathering, and aftermarket products. At the end of September, the top nominations will be made into a poll, and then you have the final say during voting in October. There's going to be 9 categories, and then a final best new kit overall will be awarded to the kit that goes on to receive the most kits above all the categories. So he wanted to set this up because there hasn't really been anything like this before, and what a great way for the modeling community to get together. So he's on their website, and again, we'll have this goldensprueawards.com. We're going to have this on the show notes. So far, he's got 63 countries that have submitted nominations so far. So you have until the 25th. And the winners will be revealed. Well, voting goes from the 3rd to the 31st of October, and winners will be revealed on the 15th. So we've got best new aircraft kit, best new military vehicle kit, best new ship kit, figure kit, civilian vehicle kit, sci-fi kit, best paint product, best weathering product, best after market products. So this will be really good. He's also doing a bank holiday giveaway, although you might be a bit late by the time this episode comes out because it's for Monday and we usually come out Monday night. But he's also invited people to submit their build pictures to the gallery. And as you can see, they've already got quite a few people already supporting it. I want to know how he's gotten a hold of some of these manufacturers, because I've tried to get a hold of some of these manufacturers and they're not, they're basically not answering my email, or they're going, Stuart, who, what, where? So yeah, quite a few there in Clint again, and you'll recognize a few websites there and a few podcasts. So do you have any ideas for any of these right now, Jeff?
No, I don't. But I'm looking at this map that he's got, and it's pretty
Yeah,
amazing,
isn't it
isn't it?
cool? The heat map, yeah. Yep,
Yeah, heat map. Obviously up to Calgary and Alberta and Edmonton
yep,
for
yep.
sure, and
Countries
some
all over the world.
Newfoundland, Labrador, and Nova Scotia down there. But
Yep,
America's all very hot. Europe's very hot.
yep. Australia, New Zealand.
Yep, Japan,
Um, yep,
Far East.
yep.
Very,
So
very cool. Very cool.
yeah, so this is going to be cool. So yeah, we definitely invite you to basically participate. You can check out some of the builds in the build gallery. I think it'll be interesting from the paint side and the weathering side, because there's a couple of big manufacturers and there seems to be a lot of fans, for those manufacturers.
Is
So
there a way? I'm curious, Stuart. Is there a way to distinguish between new kit releases? In other words, is this new moldings or is this just
well, he's
repops,
he's
everything?
kind of said new kit releases, so I think that includes everything
Hmm,
at the present time. Because usually when they do a repop, they might add a new decal sheet or
yeah.
something like that. So
And I guess arguably, even a repop is a new kit to people who weren't
yeah,
they couldn't get it the
exactly.
first time around. So
Exactly. So, yeah, I think it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens there. So that's going to be kind of fun. Okay, moving on. A couple of show cancellations we finally heard, and again, none of these are really surprising. But Scale Model World UK, that's at Telford. That's the equivalent UK equivalent or European equivalent of IPMS Nationals. They've officially canceled that now. They did do a blog post today. John Topsell did release one, and it was basically very similar to what happened with IPMS Nationals. They had to work with the venue because they always worry about cancellation fees and stuff like that. Like I know Texas, there was some talk there. They were really hoping the state was going to shut it down, then they could get their refund back. But when you have these big shows with binding contracts, like Telford's a huge convention center. Imagine two gigantic buildings that they book for this thing. Then there's hotels and stuff like that. So John, who's the IPMS UK publicity officer, did a very good blog post, and yeah, so they're going to have one next year. Um, and again, some interesting conversations there, and it really summarizes quite well what the challenges of our people who are having to do these shows, but have to face the challenge we're having with COVID.
Yeah.
If they're going to be open or not. And the last thing you want, particularly because a lot of the people who attend these shows, they're right in that, shall we say, the prime age and health group um, for these. So you don't really want to risk someone's life. There's, a model show will be there next year.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. So there was that one, and then also Wonderfest, which, as we know, they got delayed. They were hoping to do one in October, and they had the very good WantaFest a couple of months ago, which was very successful virtually. But they're basically the same thing. They're just saying we just can't pull this off this year. Very similar to our own local show in London here. So they're basically rescheduled for next year, and their show's going to be on June 5th and 6th, 2021. And I know that's a very popular show with a few of our local club members, and we've had interviews, and we're gonna make sure we give them as much support as we can as that show gets closer.
I have to give a huge shout out to the guys who managed the WandaFest, because I think that given the circumstances the world has been facing this year, and they were making it up as they go along. It was amazing. First of
Hmm.
all, the interest in the community was huge, and the way they were able to manage it, even though
Yeah.
there were delays, there were challenges here and there, but oh my God, they did a great job. Just an absolutely great job.
Well, and I think it shows. They've shown a virtual show can be done.
Yep.
It's not going to be any easier than a normal one. You're going to have a lot of volunteers and a lot of help. But I think there's something, and I've talked about this before, where you might see more of these even after COVID happens. Because one of the big things when we interviewed the organizers post-show was they were saying they had so many people who wrote them in and said, "Hey, I'm a veteran, or I'm disabled, or I've got PTSD, and I can't come for whatever reason to a physical show. But
Yeah.
I was able to participate, submit my model." So, I think you're going to be seeing more of
And
these.
I think we should see more. I really do think that the nature of this hobby is such that you can't just have a show in Telford or in Texas and then expect the rest of the continent to pony up the cash to fly down and do it, because vast majority of us can't. The ones that can, good for you, great.
Hmm.
But for the others that can't, we have to find a way that people can participate and feel part of the community in that way. And I think that that Waterfest really kind of pointed the direction in that way. I mean, I agree with you. It was a ton of work, and uh, I know that the guys who did it aren't particularly interested in doing it again because of that, and I completely sympathize. But
Hmm.
over time, I think this is the way it's going to go, and we're going to have to
Yep.
find a way to make it a little bit more manageable for people to participate and
Yeah.
to handle these things.
Yeah. I think there might be some possibilities. And I think in some ways, Canada might be able to lead the way because IPMS Canada, we're so spread out, and we don't have a national show. Wouldn't it be kind of cool at some point to have a virtual national show, for
Yeah, I
example?
agree. Totally agree.
So
I know
it's just,
we've had some discussions. We do have a member of IPMS Canada in IPMS London, and we've had those discussions to see if there's ways that we can make it work. And his comment has always been, "Okay, great to talk. Pony up your time.
exactly,
Join.
exactly.
Let's join in." I think we'll find a way to do that. Well,
Yep, I think we will.
a lot of us are retired. A lot of us might be able to do that.
Hmm. And a lot of it's just some of the tech side and things like that. So we'll see what happens. Oh,
That's your job. That's your job, Stuart.
oh, is that my job? Damn
Yeah,
it.
you're the tech guy.
God damn it. Okay. Hey, there we go again. All right, moving on. Atlantis had a great announcement. Atlantis Toy and Hobbies. They produce they get all sorts of neat things, a lot of old nostalgia kits and that. They had a press release. Peter sent this out about a week and a half ago. So basically, they have acquired the rights to recast the Snoopy molds, like from Peanuts. So Monogram, so the famous stuff from Monogram. So these were the original. So they've got the original injection molds that were done by Monogram way back in, I believe, the 70s. Yep. So they're going to soon release Snoopy and a Sopwith Camel and Snoopy Ice Hockey Plastic kits through agreement with Peanuts Worldwide LLC. So the Sopwith Camel came out in 1970. So it includes him in the camel, during an imaginary dogfight with his despised Red Baron. It was snap together assembly. It was also, I remember this, I never had it, but I know a friend of mine did. It had a battery operated motor driven propeller. With a flick of a finger, Snoopy's plane whirls into action while still securely seated upon its modular doghouse base and stand.
You
And
need to
then,
have it hook up like the old kits where you could have a line that would make his arm curse the Red Baron
yes, that would be awesome.
while the
There is
prop was
there is
spinning.
there is technology. I'm
I
sure
know it can be done.
it's going to be done. The other one's the Snoopy Ice Hockey Kit. And I never remember seeing this one. This was featuring Snoopy and Bird Buddy Woodstock playing hockey in a frozen bird bath. It was released in 1971. The Snap Together kit allowed actual two-person play upon completion. So I'm going to have to look that one up at ScaleMates. So that's going to be good. So yeah, Peter, president, says it's been a lifelong dream. And yeah, apparently they were only released in the early 70s, and that's been it. So look for the kits. They're going to become shipping fourth quarter 2020.
Pretty unusual licensing opportunity, eh?
Well, Atlantis does all this very cool stuff.
I
And
love
again,
Atlantis.
and we talk about nostalgia, right? We've
Yep.
talked about it in our club builds and stuff like that. So, there's no shortage of it. There's definitely demand. As I tell people, they wouldn't be producing these kits unless they didn't think there was a demand. They don't.
My experience has been that if I lust after a kit from my childhood, within about 6 months, Atlantis will repop it somehow.
Well, there you go.
It
Well,
just seems to work.
yeah, and you remember we've had guys in the club who've kind of bought an old thing and then yeah, someone reissues a brand new gorgeous one or whatever. It's happened before. So exactly. Well, I'm trying to think of something in particular, but like there's been one or two. I remember one of the guys, one or two, and he had like 3 months in a row, boom, boom, right after the other. So then people started asking, well, can you go buy this old mold of this, and that way someone will release a new one, or
One kit I always wanted to get a repop or get a kit of was the Atlas booster, the Everything Is Go kit from back in the early days when they built the
yeah,
launch pad with the Mercury
yeah.
rocket.
Well, we're going to be talking about that in a second. Excellent segue, my friend.
What can I say?
Excellent segue. So yeah, so lots of new content I've posted to the website at scalemodelpodcast.com. I've been doing so much with the video editor and two screens. I'm getting a suntan practically. So actually, yeah, the main story right now on the website is Horizon's models, their 172nd spacecraft series. So I actually got Tony from Horizon Models sent me two kits. He sent me the
You are
SM60.
so lucky.
I know, I
You are
know.
so lucky.
Well, there you go. So the SM65 Atlas, this is the military version. So it was an ICBM. The civilian version did carry some Mercury spacecraft, and then the other one, of course, is what we were just talking about, the Mercury launcher, the
Hmm.
Mercury Redstone launcher. So yeah, I've got a complete video up. What I've done is I'm splitting it into two parts. So basically, I've got the Atlas one because I'm going to work on the Atlas next. That's going to be next in my queue. So that's the first one I'm going to work on. And then this week I'm going to do a video review and an inbox review with photos and that of the Mercury. And these are just awesome looking kits. I know my buddy Dave Goldfinch in Australia on the bench has been building a couple of these, as well as some other people. I've always heard very good things. So it was kind of funny because Jeff's mentioning this for a reason, because I was mentioning this review and I showed these guys the website, and Jeff and another colleague in our club just whipped out their credit cards faster than you could say, holy cow, um, and basically picked up a couple. What did you end up getting?
I got the Merc. Well, I'm a fan of the space space series rather than
Right.
the missile series. So I picked up the Atlas and the Redstone Mercury launch vehicles.
Very
So
cool.
I'm looking forward to building them. Well, they're still somewhere around the world.
They're on the way.
They're on the way. Yeah, and
Yep.
actually a big part of this was I have really very rarely bought kits online, and I know that makes me a bit unusual perhaps, but mostly it's because I just don't know quite. I never quite figured out how, and also I really kind of like the idea of supporting local hobby shops if
Mm-hmm.
I could.
Mm-hmm.
But so many of the things that I really kind of want to get now, they don't have them in the local hobby shops,
No.
and you kind of do need to get them online. So I'm looking forward to seeing how customs works with this and how the process works. I'm not sure, and
Well, knock on wood, mine came through without a problem. I think it took about 4 to 5 weeks, I think.
well, it
I'm,
depended on when you order. I know that back in April,
yeah,
it was taking ages, and
yeah,
then
it's better now.
yeah, by
That's what
May, all
Tony
of a
was saying.
sudden it was like 4 to 6 weeks
Yeah, it
max.
seems to be better, but they came well packed.
Hmm.
And the neat thing is Horizon Models right now. So horizon-models.com, and of course links on the website. They're having a sale right now, and you guys took advantage of that. So they've extended it until September 30th. They knock 10% off, and they also give you free shipping.
Hmm.
And the prices are reasonable for what you're
This,
getting.
the free shipping is huge.
Yeah, it is. It is. And again, the pricing isn't too bad for any of these.
No.
They're really fantastic. And as I said, so I've done an inbox review of the first one. I showed these guys the sprues and that, and after they stopped drooling, like I said, they whipped out their credit cards and started ordering. And I'm going to enjoy. I've always loved real space. I've never built one. One of the ones I always want. It's on my bucket list. Hasegawa did a model of the Voyager spacecraft, and it's a
Yes,
photo etched set.
yes.
And at some point, I've seen it around, but at some point I'm gonna have to get one. Just stuff like this. So these sort of things are really neat. So
Yeah.
so anyway, so I've got that one. We also have Terry Trade Secrets, Terry Measley. He did a really nice video on doing instrument panels and some tips for instrument panels. And we had that as a Patreon exclusive for a week or two. And now I've posted it to the main site, so you can check it out there. It's also on the YouTube channel. And there's some really cool tips, stuff I hadn't known about and thought about. So that's definitely worth a watch if you're doing that. And of course, we have some other awesome things, of course, which is I know, like I said, it's a ton this week.
I know.
Just to continue, we have the Scale Model Podcast Super Contest 2020, sponsored by our good friends at Moscato Hobby Models, that you have just over a month to go. So that's basically any subject, any scale, anything goes, must be your own work. The deadline September 30th at midnight in your local time zone. Um, Maximum 3 pictures and a brief, no more than 100 words. And you have to include the scale, manufacturer, and model name. Or sorry, scale, manufacturer, subject name. I think I need to put more booze in my coffee.
I think you need more commas in your sentences. That's
Yeah,
what you need.
well, maybe a bit of both.
Yeah.
First prize, of course, is the Moscato Baby Space Crab 148 scale resin kit. This is a beautiful kit from the Robotech Macross series. And John's Moscato's also added a beautiful automobile, 124th Oshima Lamborghini Aviator, which is a nice looking car. Terry Measley of Terry's Trade Secrets, he's going to be doing the judging. And you can send your photos and descriptions to smpcontest2020@gmail.com. You see what I did there? That's pretty
You did
clever, eh?
well. Yeah,
I did
very well
well.
done.
I did well with that one. And then last but not least of tooting our own horn, the Great 2020 Modeling Survey. This is something I started because a previous guest on our show, John Bias, way back in episode 4, I believe, he did one of these in 2015, and it was quite interesting to see the data. What I wanted to do is I wanted to do another survey, but also add some new questions. So I reached out to John, and with his blessing, I used his original questions so we can get some baselines. And I asked my other podcast associates if they wanted some questions. So we all did it kind of together. So there is a survey via Google Forms. It's about 28 to 30 questions. It'll take you about 10, 15 minutes. We wanted to share it far and wide because we know sometimes when you do these surveys, it might be the military modelers only or the car model. We want to get as wide people as possible. And what we're hoping to do is when it's in, we will collate them. I'm going to see if I can get John on the podcast and we're going to talk about it a little bit. But then the data is going to be free to all. So definitely check that out. And you will find that again at scalemodelpodcast.com. And if you go to scalemodelpodcast.com 2020 survey, and that'll take you there as well.
So what kind of information are you're
Well,
curious about?
We're asking for where they are in the world, their age, how many years they've been modeling, what's
Credit card number?
No,
what's their password?
No, nothing like that. No, there's enough people that do that anyway on Facebook.
I noticed that. Yeah.
By answering all those quizzes. What genre they like, what scale, what scales they build in, if you're a member of a modeling club. All sorts of different things. Like if you occasionally participate in online forums where you get your news, how much do you rely on? Like, do you listen to podcasts? Do you do stuff on YouTube? Have you? One I'm going to be really interested in is if people. I've asked them are you now ordering online more because of the pandemic? And if so, did you ever order online before the pandemic? And of course, then I have the inevitable question: how many unbuilt models do you have in your possession?
Oh, that's cruel.
This is why I know. This is why it's anonymous.
That's just cruel.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I've got 1,000 or more, so it'll be interesting to see how many people answer that one that way. So, so basically, as wide variety of possible, ranking factors, how much they spend per month. Again, this is why I made it anonymous. I don't want data getting back to significant others.
No, that's fair.
That's fair. No, I made sure of that. So yeah. Well, I was very careful. I want to keep the audience. I don't want them to get killed.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see what comes out of this.
Yeah, exactly. So like I say, that's all at scalemodelpodcast.com. And don't forget, when I post those, do those postings about extra videos and that, if you subscribe via email on the website, you will get an email telling you it's there. In addition to the podcast, because obviously those don't show up on the podcast reader.
Well, Stuart, I feel like a terrible human being because I'm not yet a Patreon for your site.
Right. That's all right. You're contributing your own way.
No, but I honestly feel that I should become a Patreon.
Right. Well,
because I do find this useful.
If you become a Patreon supporter, the other thing you get is you get exclusive access to content in advance and exclusive prize draws.
See, if I become one, I'll know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's even better.
Tomato.
Yeah.
That's all right. I slaughter people's names on a regular basis. Anthony laughs at me, so that's fine.
That's not because you slaughter their names. He's just laughing at you. That's a different thing.
That could be true as well. Very, 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 very true. That's pretty well normal. Hey, if I want to get treated like that, I can just go upstairs.
Yeah. That's cold. That's cold.
I know. That's fine. That's fine. I don't know if I've told this story, but I think I'll share it anyway. This is how awesome my wife is. Last year I was cooking steaks and mushrooms on the barbecue, and I come in, and you know how we sometimes have a slight disconnect between the brain and the mouth.
No.
As we get older, not at all. Okay. For whatever reason, I decided to say, honey, the steaks and marshmallows are ready. So without a pause, okay, and then I paused for a minute. I went, okay, honey, when I have full-blown Alzheimer's, you are going to pick a nice home for me to go into, aren't you? And without a pause, without a second's pause, my wonderful wife of 15 years counters with, why would I? You're not going to remember.
You know what? I really like your wife.
I know. Isn't that cool? You see what I got? But that's fine. What's good as well is the best thing you can do if you're a modeler, marry a spouse who's into crafts, because they have a stash too, and they have to, sneak things past you, to add to the stash, just like we do to them.
It's sort of an escalating battle of wits.
It is.
On both sides.
Wits and half wits and all that. So I'm mostly the half wit. Okay, let's get going to the mailbag. Jay asks, "Hi, I'm behind on my listening. I just learned that Anthony's cutting back his time. Can you please pass along a question to him, please? Which of the Macross plane model kits are the best in far as detail and quality? Thank you for your dedication to our hobby and the work you put into SMP." So Anthony replied, "Hi, Jay Anthony here. You will not go wrong with a 172nd or 148 VF1 kit from Hasegawa for quality and price. There are also some very nice kits from Bandai who maintain high quality kits of the more current series. Hope you enjoy." I have to agree with them. I just finished a little while ago that 172nd VF1 from Hasegawa.
Yeah, I have two of those sitting in my stash. I think I bought them both from Anthony in
Yeah,
a two
probably.
in a 2-for-1 deal one
Oh,
night
there you go.
at
There
the
you go.
club. But
Yep.
they look like fun, and the moldings are great. The engraved panel lines are great. So
Yep. It
yep.
looks very good. I had a lot of fun with it. I definitely want to build some different ones from the series now. Okay, Wayne Peters, and Wayne's written us before. "Hi guys, just finished listening to episode 52. Read the new release of Tallery 1/9 German Infantrymen. I'm pretty sure this is a repop of the old Esky kit, which I have somewhere in my stash. Also read the Hobby Boss XM706E2. They also did an M706 from 2008, and Verlinden did an XM76E2 all the way back in 1988. These were the like armored cars that they used to patrol U.S. air bases for security. So I actually asked people because I know with both of these. I went, I'm pretty sure I've seen stuff like this before. So I asked the listeners, and they came back. So that's
I'm
kind of cool.
I'm glad you did describe what they were, because being more of an airplane guy than an armor guy, I'm
You're going,
used
what
to.
the heck's this?
Exactly. I know names. I don't know
Yeah,
numbers.
that's
Okay.
all right. That's all right. Yeah, no, they're neat little like little quad wheel armored cars.
Yeah.
So, okay, Frank Ramsey. We're hearing a lot of this. First of all, I'm going to miss Anthony. Hearing Anthony every episode. You will hear him now and again. You just won't hear him live.
I, I just I
I
just
think he's
want to
been paying
say
people. I think
I
he's
just wa-
paying people.
I just want to say that I think this is very cruel of you to be putting me through this. Constantly reading notes about how great Anthony
Well,
is.
you know what? You know what? We have to wait for the viewer mail to come in about you.
Uh, no, no, no.
And
I
I'm
know what
only
that's
reading,
gonna say.
and you know what? And I'm only reading selected emails. So just keep that in mind. So he basically, I'm going to summarize this. He was about to type up a big discussion on model railway scales because we did an episode all about scales, very brief and all that. So all I'll say on the subject is that you mentioned at least one of the otter scale. I think it was ON 30, where the train is a different scale than the track, and you wondered why that was. The reason these exist is because not every actual railway uses the same distance between rails, and if you want an accurate model railway model, then you need these odd scales. So that's good to know.
Yep.
And then I also asked people to write in about their thought on constant scale modeling. For me, I'm sort of a constant scale modeler, as I have a specific scale for each type of subject. So for aircraft early flight, it is 1/32nd. Military are all 1/35th. Machine Krieger is 1/20th. Gunpla is master grade, aka 1/100th. Where I break my rule is general science fiction because it's nearly impossible to get a constant scale about multiple topics in sci-fi. Amen to that. I agree with that.
Yep. Absolutely true.
Yeah, it's an absolute pain in the ass. Anyway, I'm really enjoy the show. Very interesting in hearing what your rotating guest hosts bring to the show. Stay safe and bring those models. See, he did mention you.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
There you go.
That's a very kind of him. Very, very, very
Yeah,
kind.
yeah. Again, we will just wait for Wayne to write back and give you the full review.
Yep.
All right. Last but not least, Carmen Corliss. He wrote up, and he wanted me to mention his YouTube channel, which is Wasatch Modeler. And again, I'll have the link in the show notes. Pretty cool. Question for you all. What makes a great YouTube channel? What types of content do you prefer? Quick tips, builds, videos, unboxing, etc. He's new to the whole vlog thing, and I'm working on building mine. That's an excellent question. So I'll start with this. I have to admit, I enjoy a little bit of everything. I do like the ones that do tips and that. If it's just a general build, not as much. I enjoy the unboxing, particularly if it's something I'm interested in. But there is an absolute wealth of resources out there on YouTube. You got any comments on this, Jeff?
I completely agree. Actually, I haven't really used YouTube very much, other than, okay, if I want to look at a better way to do airbrushing, or a better way to do dry brushing, or a
Hmm.
better way to do. I just got a whole pack of those pencils, the watercolor pencils from AK.
Oh, the AK ones. Yeah, you'll like them.
Well, but there's so much you can do, and
Yeah.
there's so little I know about what to do with them. So
Yep.
that kind of thing is a gold mine. YouTube's a gold mine for that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
To see how other people have dealt with it. I do find, I mean, unboxing is great if it's a model I'm interested in, but that's really all it is. I mean, if it's a model I'm interested in, I'm gonna look at it. If it's not, I'm
Yeah.
probably not. Uh,
Exactly.
and watching, you know what? The funny thing for me though, I really enjoy watching people working on things, and it doesn't have to be models, it doesn't have to be woodworking, it doesn't have to be painting, it can be pretty much any. I love watching people uh, building on their craft,
Hmm.
and so YouTube videos that do that, all power to them. I'm big fan of those.
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny you say that because like one of the ones I enjoy is a guy that does he repairs and fixes stationary steam engines, like the real
Oh,
things out of England, and it's awesome. It's just
oh
really neat. And he also kind of shows beginners, how they can do it, like work on the lathe and that. And that's something I'm never going to do unless I win the lottery.
no, no.
But it's very kind of cool to see. And yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. But again, what's funny is I don't tend to watch people building model kits. I don't know why. It just doesn't interest me as much.
No, no, but watching real life stuff, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
Building
that's
model
always
kits,
cool.
if they're doing something that's unique and different, for example, somebody who's building from scratch,
Yes, I have to agree. Yeah.
I find that really interesting because there's a huge amount of imagination involved there. But also people who are doing a fine job working on a different paint effect or something to that effect, I'll watch that. I
Hmm.
absolutely watch that.
Very cool.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's all the viewer mail, as we say. More than enough to line the bird cage with, etc. As we used to say.
Hmm.
It's a very old term. Only the older folks will get that. Let's move on to some product releases. Revell Germany, from our good friends at the Modeling News. They've got 4 announcements here. So a good amount of aircraft, little bit of this, a little bit of that. They've got um, the A34 Comet in 176 scale. This will be a Matchbox repop because it's in 176, and you get the little diorama. Did you ever build any of these Matchbox kids when you were youngin'?
I
Did you ever
still
see
do.
these?
I
Yeah,
still
yeah,
do.
they're awesome. You get the little diorama. So if it says 176, it's an old Matchbox repop, and
It's
these things are great.
It's funny. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, at least I thought we would spend almost the entire summer up at my grandfather's cottage.
Right.
And I found out 3 months ago from my mother that actually we spent 2 weeks. But that 2 weeks expanded in my mind to be
Yep.
like an entire summer, and it would always start with us going to the local hardware store
Yes.
in the smallest town near the cottage, and I'd
Hmm.
pick up one or two of these tiny little models, and I'd make them, and then I'd blow them up or destroy them
Yep.
or whatever.
Yep. Yep.
That was a fun time.
Oh yeah, no, these are awesome. Like they're just so tiny. I'd love to do them again, but they might be a bit small for me now. But yeah, so they're reintroducing this. This is the diorama base, rotatable gun turret. It'll be plastic tracks and all that good stuff. But yeah, very
Yeah,
cool looking. Next up, slightly larger and more modern, the Leopard 1A5 at 135th scale. So this is the German one between 86 and 92. The Leopard one was upgraded, was fitted with an improved fire control system. There's a lot of manufacturers either reissuing or producing new Leopard tanks. We had Anthony Seawards on, who served in Afghanistan, and he is just an absolute expert in all things Leopard. In fact, he was involved in doing the Mung version.
hmm.
But yeah, this is probably a repop as well, an older kit from the German Army, 4 different schemes, so that looks good too. No photo etch or anything like that. Okay, next up. Now this one I'm going to have to look up again because it almost reminds me of the Airfix dogfight doubles.
Yes, it does.
So this is they call it the combat set, the ME262 and P51B Mustang in 172nd scale. So you basically get both of them. These are going to be older kits, but again, they seem to come up fairly well. Might be great for the younger modeler. You get, let's see here, you get the 109's a G10 from Normandy D-Day, and the P-51 is Captain Willard Milken 336F Squadron 4th Fighter Group in May 45.
I find it interesting that it's a P-51 A. It's the raised
it's a
spine.
B. Yeah,
Or
it
B,
doesn't have.
P-51B
Yeah, it
is.
doesn't have a D. Yeah, it surprises me
Yeah,
as well.
I would have thought the D would have been fighting the ME-262, but
Well, they probably both were, but yeah, you'd think that would be more common. But
mhm.
that's obviously what they had extra of, so they wanted to get those out.
You're getting
Possibly.
cynical. You're
I
getting
know,
cynical.
that's me. Okay, next up, another fairly big kit. This is the Hawkes Tempest 5, big 1/32 scale. So this was a very famous one because this would take on the V1 buzz bombs
Yeah,
because it could do almost 700 kilometers an hour. So it could intercept them, or what they would do sometimes, them and Spitfires, if they ran out of ammo, they come up beside the darn thing because they were unmanned and stick their wing underneath the V1's wing and tilt it. And that
yeah,
would screw up the gyroscope and then it would crash.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so again, this is actually, here we go. This is a reboxing of the special hobby Tempest kit. So this should build up rather well.
It
One
looks
thing
beautiful.
Revell always does a great job on their shots, whoever does the builds for them.
Hmm.
They're always very good. And then we have the Tornado GR4 in the Farewell scheme, 1/48 scale. This one has a special scheme to celebrate 35th years continuous service with RAF number 31 Squadron. So they basically gave us this special tail scheme, livery, whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is 2019, only recently retired. Hasn't been long retired, being
Surpri-
replaced by the F-35.
I was going to say, it surprises me that plane has been that long in service. That's
Oh yeah,
amazing.
I remember them in Gulf War One, and they were very good at low-level strike, and
Yep.
they'd sometimes come back with a palm tree or the top of a camel's head or something, if you
I
weren't
guess it was
careful.
the UK's version of the Top Gun. What the hell? I'm losing my mind. The swing wing
Oh, the
plane.
F-111.
No, the swing wing plane.
The F-14.
F-14.
Well,
Yeah.
it was used as an interceptor. So the Tornado was actually developed by Italy, France, Germany, and the UK. No, Germany, Italy, and the UK. It was originally called the multi-role combat aircraft. So it was designed to be an interceptor,
Hmm.
ground attack, like one of those all things, kind of like the F-16, right? A European version of the F-16.
Yeah.
And it was very good for its time. Again, they did use them for interceptors before the RAF, for example, the RAF introduced the brand new Typhoon, which is their interceptor aircraft now.
Hmm.
But it had a very good knack for low-level ground attack. It did very well with the avionics and that. So yeah,
The only
very
thing
successful aircraft.
the only thing they didn't have was a proper movie made about them with
Well,
Tom Cruise.
exactly. Well, there's
Yeah.
a new one coming out, so we'll see
Hmm.
how that pulls off. We know you're going to be first in line for that.
I will be.
There you go. Okay, then we have 1/72 scale, speaking of F-16 from the 2018 Tiger Meet from 31 Squadron. So this is the Belgian 31 Squadron. This aircraft took part in the Tiger Meet. So it's basically one of their standard F-16s with brand new decals. The Tiger Meets are always fun. They,
Mhm.
you get a lot of the NATO countries participate, and there's always, different fancy schemes. So that looks pretty good.
That looks
Then,
pretty good.
yep. Then in 1/144 scale, the U.S. landing ship medium, the LSM. So this would be one of the things that were built, for D-Day or invasions of very specific islands in 44. So again, it even comes with a bunch of little tanks and vehicles. Nice size. You get,
Actually, this is the kind of kit that reminds me of what I would have bought or tried to buy before we went to the cottage.
yeah, exactly, exactly. It's cool. So you get, again, it's an old mold. You get 3 Sherman battle tanks, 3 ducks, like the swimmable trucks, and 3 353 ducks.
You can see a ton of diorama possibilities with
Oh
this
yeah,
one.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, very cool. All right, and then here we go. A car you probably lusted after in your
Oh,
youth.
still do.
A 62 Shelby Cobra 289, 1/25 scale.
Mm.
Yeah, this is just, need we say more? Just
No,
gorgeous looking.
it is. It is what a car should look like.
Yeah. So Shelby Carroll put a 275 base horsepower, 4.7 liter engine in this thing. It comes with the opening bonnet, or as we say, hood in North America. You know, good
I
detail and all
I
that.
kind of like bonnet myself. I
Oh,
think
so
it's
do
got
I.
some style.
It's got some style. So that's all
Hmm.
from Revell this month. Trumpeter, 4 new kits. Again, big variety out of Trumpeter. Trumpeter's got HMS Calcutta in 1/350th scale. She was a C-class light cruiser of the Royal Navy. She was originally laid down in 1917, launched in 1918, and she didn't see action in the First World War, but she was converted to an anti-aircraft cruiser in 39. She served during the Norwegian campaign of the evacuation from Dunkirk. She was used mostly in the Mediterranean, and she was sunk on the 1st of June, 1941 by Luftwaffe aircraft off Egypt. So again, nice looking one if you're into the ships. Not a lot of decals, obviously, but a good size. 290 parts, 339 centimeters in length. So a good size. Nicely increased.
339 centimeters.
No, no, no.
How
393
three?
millimeters, which is 39 centimeters.
So how long is that in real numbers? That's
Just over a foot.
okay.
A
There,
foot and a bit.
that helps me. That helps me.
Yeah, okay. For all you, yeah, for all you imperial types. Includes a nice photo etch, some nice chains. So it looks good. Next up, we have the latest Russian vehicle. Trumpeter really likes doing their trucks, Russian trucks, the URL 4320 in 1/35th scale. It's a general purpose off-road 6x6 truck. It was introduced in 76 and they still produce them today. You got a couple of schemes there, including a winter scheme.
I
It
wonder if
also,
they need a license from the Soviet military to do these trucks.
well, I'm assuming they're getting it because they seem to do a lot of Russian stuff.
Yeah, and Chinese as well. It's
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It also includes masks, which a lot of the truck kits are doing now, which is
That's
nice.
actually a good idea.
Yeah, a lot of them are doing it now. It's very popular, and a little bit of photo etch.
I
Good
finally
thing.
used masks for the first time on that kit I bought from you at a swap meet,
Oh, excellent.
the Lancaster,
And aren't you
and
glad you used them?
I got to tell you, I will never go back.
Yeah, when you have things like a greenhouse and that, there's just
Yeah.
no. There's certain things now. Some people love doing masks. It's like some people like doing decals or different things. I hate them.
Hmm.
I
I
absolutely
kind
so.
of I kind of liked it. I kind of got into a Zen thing. I had some nice
Hmm.
classical music playing or like jazz or something and whatever. I just get
Well,
into it, get into it.
1/72 on my Lancaster was just too small for me. So I just, yeah. If it's bigger, 1/48 I'll do. Like I've done, when I do the Spitfires and stuff like that, I'll do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, no.
Yeah, so you sold your 172nd Lancaster to some sucker at a club night.
He had a
Club night.
club thing, and he
Yeah,
ended up building up just awesome. So
yeah.
that
Look,
was good.
it's in my my shelf of I forget what I called it earlier, but
Oh, we'll have to go back and find what that is and copyright it. So,
yeah.
okay. Speaking of Chinese, the People Liberation Army's Navy, the PLA Navy, Type 52 Sea Destroyer, 1/700 scale. So NATO calls it the Liu Yang 2 class. These are guided missile destroyers in the Chinese Navy, basically. So yeah, fairly modern looking both fixed actively electronically scanned array and vertically launched surface-to-air missiles. It's the first warship in the Chinese Navy with area air defense capability. So this is probably built to complement their aircraft carriers.
Hmm.
So this would be escorting that. You got some photo etch, very fine photo etch if you have a look there of the radar. Just looking at how fine that is gives me twitches.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah,
I would destroy it. I know I would.
I know, same here.
Yeah.
But there's the guys that did. We had Doug Booth, who passed away
Yes.
last year. He would do it in these tiny scales, and I don't know how he did it, but far better modeler than I'll ever be in that scale.
Oh my God. Yep.
All right. Yep.
Nice looking ship.
Yeah, they are. Some of the Chinese designs, some of the newer designs are quite neat.
Hmm.
Then we have the Russian T-80 main battle tank, 1/35th scale. So this is the BVM. This is an upgraded version of the T-80 BV. It was first publicly revealed in 2017. So yeah, so this is the T-80 is their second oldest tank. They've got T-90s now, but this one it features the reactive armor. So that's basically what's unique about that.
That looks like a tank.
That looks like a tank. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean some tanks this is a tank.
Okay, so let me tell you about it. 31 sprues and lower hull. The kit consists of 1,000 parts, multi-slide motor turret and lower hull, 192 individual track links. So how many parts go into each individual track link? That's your part count right there,
Right,
right?
exactly. About 500 parts or
Well, there's probably like 3 or 4 parts per link, right? So that's where you're getting your 1,000 parts.
that
Like when
kind
they
of
say,
drives me nuts.
oh, I know, but again, you talk about Zen. Some people love doing those individual tracks. To them, it's
Good,
Zen.
good, good for them.
Yeah, I know. So that's all from Trumpeter. Moving along, I wanted to feature this one. This is the all-new tool, Bumblebee Smart Model Kit from Trumpeter. We were talking before air about you have grandkids.
Yes.
This is a snap kit, no glue required. It builds up to about 11 centimeters or 4 1/3 inches, 60 pieces, 20 plus movable joints, highly posable, coming out in October 2020.
I
So,
think this looks cool. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not a huge Transformer fan. I get a kick out of the movies, but
yep. But
I
again,
did.
this will be something for the younger modeler.
Yep. Oh no, for sure. And
Yep.
my grandkids are already big fans of models right now,
Hmm.
and I've sort of tried to introduce them to classic stuff. But this is the kind of thing I think they get a kick out of.
Well, exactly. And it says here you don't need nippers, so they're obviously designed the screw gates to come off
Yep.
very, very easily. So yeah, this looks good. And this will be the first of several because they announced acquiring the license in January,
Hmm.
February, earlier this year. And yeah, it's known as a smart kit. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be very, very cool, very popular. There's a whole series coming. So they've licensed the full series of movie Transformers. So none of the old school stuff like when we were much younger, but movie figures. So that's going to include Optimus Prime, Shatter, Blitzwing, and Soundwave, all from the movies.
Hmm. Hmm.
So these look like they're going to be good. So
I
anyway,
wonder. I wonder if Trumpeter is trying to sort of compete with Bandai as far as the.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they both do because again, the Chinese market's very big for this sort of thing as well. And not just the Japanese and the Korean market. So yeah, definitely. Okay, 3 from Masterbox. Masterbox does some absolutely amazing figures for different things. So they've got a new series of their post-apocalyptic series. So these are coming out in September or October, and also some World War II. So they've got some new German soldiers. They're calling it German military men. This is a redo of the previous Masterbox kit that was titled "Where Are the Damned Roads?" So basically, yeah, this is included a car before. This one doesn't. So this one's just the figures. But again, Masterbox. I know some people who have built these, and they're just amazing. People love them.
Wow.
Full painting guides from MIG, etc. And then their Desert Battle series. So Skull Clan. This is the post apocalyptic stuff because everyone's doing apocalyptic, zombies and all that. Um, so this is a new series they have. So this is their kit number 1, Skull Clan Long Distance Raid and Old Raider. It's the
And they
guy with
all
the
look like
beard
they're relatively relaxed, which means that there's no zombies in the immediate
at the
vicinity.
immediate. Exactly.
Yes.
This will be the first of 4. Yeah, the Raider story is told by Masterbox goes, as a result of the global environmental disaster that covered the planet during 2023 to 2038. So we have 3 more years. Great.
I was going to say that's a little nerve-wracking for
Yeah,
me. I just started retirement.
and then broken out war all against all the cities that became a trap were abandoned by the inhabitants, and now only groups of raiders and desperate individuals risk to appear in deadly city streets in search of loot or lost property.
I got to say I've been playing an awful lot of Fallout 4 lately, which is very post-apocalyptic, and yeah, I think I'll take it in the video game. I prefer it to
Yeah,
avoid it in reality.
exactly, exactly. And then there's a second one in the series. This is a lady, long distance raid, a new leader, Hannah. So Hannah's got a crossbow, very short hair. She looks ready to kick ass and not take names.
No, there are no names.
There are no names. She's gonna
There are no names.
just kick ass with that crossbow.
Yep.
Okay, moving along. Our good friends at Special Hobbies. One of the very popular kits we've been talking about, I know a lot of people were waiting for, were Airfix's 148 Tiger Moth. This is the all-new tool one.
I so want to get this.
Yes, so this is the resin sets that CMK are coming out for. So, you can make your tiger moth even more pretty.
When I was flying in the Cessna 150, the one plane I really really wanted to fly
Hmm.
was this one. I wanted to fly a gypsy moth or a tiger moth.
Yeah, because it was used during, it trained all the air crews
Yeah, it did
right
it.
here in London.
And basically you could walk faster than that thing could fly. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah,
it was if you're going into the wind, it was just such a
yeah.
beautiful plane.
Very
Mm,
forgiving plane to fly, great for training.
yeah.
So as you can see, they've got some nice new an exterior set, control surfaces, main wheel, tail skid. So hey, you too can spend 3 times the amount of aftermarket than on the original kit. Just saying.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
yeah, but these just look gorgeous, and of course CMK does some absolutely amazing sets.
Ah,
So definitely Tiger Moth fans are going to be very pleased. Moving on, our good friends at Arma Hobby. Arma Hobby has produced, and I will say unequivocally, the finest 1/72 Hurricane kits in forever. We had them on an interview on, and they were just absolutely awesome. So this is their latest Hurricane kit. This is the Hurricane Mark II-B in 1/72 scale. This served a lot in foreign service, like in the Far East for the Dutch,
mhm.
etc. And again, absolutely beautiful kits. I've seen the earlier kits at local stores, and a couple of people have built them, and they're just fabulous. I'm not building 72nd and World War II anymore, but they have answered my hopes and prayers. They have announced eventually they're going to do the Hurricane 148th, and
Mhm.
that's just going to be an awesome kit when that comes up. But just if you like 1/72 Hurricanes, this is a must get. Just absolutely amazing. So they've got the test shot. So that's going to be coming out fairly soon, and they're going to have it as usual in the expert sets. So the expert sets include some photo etch, some extra stuff like that, masks, photo etch brass, usually a couple extra decal selections, and then they have the basic one without all the extra stuff. Pre-orders have begun shipping September 28th. They're out of Poland, and again, we had an interview with one of the two partners, and it was really good. So just absolutely gorgeous. So looking forward to that. And there's a lot of people looking forward to building that one up.
Mhm.
Okay, Zvezda out of Russia. I know a lot of people on our fellow podcasters were excited about this. This is an all-new tool, 130 C130H Hercules in 1/72 scale.
That will be a lot of plastic.
That'll be a lot of plastic. They haven't had a decent kit in a long time,
Yeah.
if ever. Like it's been at least 20 or 30 years. I think the Italeri did one. But this is an all newer, like a second or third generation, the H model. So not a lot of detail right now, but yeah. So they've announced that, but it's coming soon. We did see some CAD renderings a couple of months ago, so this is nice to see some test spurs.
You need to do a show, Stuart, someday about, okay, these models are great. Where the hell do you put them?
Hmm.
And I
I've
know
talked about that.
there've
I've
been a
talked
number of
about that.
comments. Yeah,
Yep,
and people hang them from their ceilings. I've seen guys
I know.
who hang them on their walls.
Oh, I know exactly. Where do you
Uh,
put them? I know, but you know what? There's people that do, and you look at the large scale plane forms and guys who build 1/16 tanks and one
yeah,
200 scale carriers, and if they have the room, I'm just, like I said, I'd love a 1/48 scale Lancaster. I just don't have room to put it anywhere, or even a
I
1/32.
I was saving my money for the 1/32 scale
Well,
Lancaster
I know from Wingnut, but now you
from
got the
Wing.
Hong Kong models ones, which is pretty good as well. And
Uh,
we talked about they just have the nose section. I might get
I,
that one day.
I
That I
see
can
that
fit.
that'll fit in your garage.
These people finally listen to me.
Yep.
I wish more manufacturers would do that. Okay, moving on to our good friends at ScaleMates. ScaleMates, absolutely awesome database for kits and all that. And I love this is the best place to find previous history. So this is their hot kits from right now. It changes all the time, but obviously one of the ones a lot of people were talking about, we broke the news last time, was a brand new Crusader Mark III new tool, first one in like 30 years. And it's got a lot of the armor guys excited, so that's on the list. The Edward Spitfire, the Mark I limited edition, the Tales of Iwo Jima from Edward, the P-51 Ds. I wouldn't mind getting that one, although I would probably, I want to do one in Canadian markings because they actually had a Canadian Mustang squadron post-war based out of London
Wow.
for years. So I'd like to do that. A lot of familiar stuff.
That
You know,
that that Cessna Skymaster.
yeah,
Yesterday, 2 days ago, one flew by down at the lake along the waterfront, and that is a fast plane.
yeah, they're spying on you, man.
Oh my God, it was fast.
Yeah. We have Mung's Fokker DR1 triplane, of course. The Ford Mustang GT4 and 124th is obviously still on there. If there's anything else that catches your fancy, Jeff, just speak up.
Well, you know me,
All of it.
the
All of
Apollo
it.
11, the Dragon Apollo 11. I mean, I'm a big fan of the space program, so I'm following that. You know, the one I really want, I don't see it on this list here, is the Sikorsky, the Sea King 66.
Oh, it might not be on here just because a lot of people aren't talking about it, but that's fine. So yeah, I see Dragon has the lunar approach,
Mm-hmm.
and our buddy Dave Goldfinch from On the Bench, I think he bought the 1/72 scale Saturn V. The box
Oh,
is almost as big as him.
yeah. See, I got to get that. That one has my attention.
Yeah, but of course, when you do it, you got to do a proper base. I've seen some beautiful work where they do it like as if it's launching
Yep.
with like LEDs and stuff like that. So, yeah. Now, one new one that was recently, Airfix has re-released the BAE Hawk 100
Yep.
series. But what's
Yep.
unique about it, they have the decal options include Canadian markings. They have an anniversary edition in Canadian marking because I've got the previous kit from a swap sale at the show and it had one, but this one has a special one.
I see
So
Revell is bringing out the Type 7C in 1/72 again.
again, yes, very popular. Again, if you have room on your mantle.
Well, I have the first edition, and I still haven't finished the damn thing. It's
Well,
sitting here above my mantle right here with missing large numbers of parts. So
well, again, it's on the shelf for shame. It'll get there.
I have so many shelves of shame.
Well, that's all right. It'll get there. How about HMS Illustrious for those of you who build 1/700 carriers? This is from Flyhawk. I remember seeing the press release. I believe this is resin.
Oh,
But yeah,
looks great.
it fills the hole. And again, if Doug Booth was alive, he'd be all over this.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
Yep,
poor
he
old
loved
Doug.
his British. Yep, exactly. So anyway, so that's what's happening there. Yeah, all sorts of goodies. There's
I,
never.
I
Go ahead.
must admit, I've never quite been able to figure out ScaleMate's website because it's almost like there's too much information, and I
Well, we'll
haven't.
have to give you a proper intro.
You're gonna have to help me through this,
It's
Stuart, because
basically a database. This is based, you can search anything, like it's a user contributed database, if you imagine that. So
yep,
people, when you get an account's free, you can use it to manage your stash. But what's really cool about it is that people contribute. So if you want to see the history of a kit, so for example, let's go back up. And if you let's look up the Fokker DR1 triplane from
from
Ming.
Ming.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So
If you click on that,
yeah,
that'll take you to a page all about the kit. If you scroll down, you'll eventually see a product timeline, and this shows
markings,
when it was wingnut wings.
wing nut wings. There it
Yeah.
is.
But what's neat about this is if you put something in that, you'll be surprised how many kits or reboxes and other manufacturers use the mold, etc.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when I did my Skyhawk, that Italeri Skyhawk, it's an old Esky mold, and it's been through half a dozen different manufacturers. So it's really neat. But I warn you, it is a black hole. You will spend a few hours. Don't be
No,
surprised.
but that's the whole point. I mean, I'm looking at this thinking this is a massive rabbit hole. I could just
Yeah.
get
Oh, it's a
lost
huge
there.
rabbit hole. But what's neat about it is that, again, if you get a kit and you go, I wonder what aftermarket, you'll be surprised people have already contributed aftermarkets. If you need decal or if you need instructions, people have scanned it in. I've got
Oh,
from my Gundam kit, I have to upload the because they don't have the decals for it. What's neat is they'll actually tell you too. Like, so when you add these kits to your stash, when you go to the contribute section later on, they'll say, "Oh, we notice you have this kit in your stash. Do you have the decals? Can you photocopy or the instructions? Can you scan the instructions for us?"
see, that's pretty cool. I like
It's
that.
a community thing, and a lot of the manufacturers now are getting behind it, so they'll add their stuff too.
I
Um,
see Revell is bringing out an SR-71 in
148,
148
yep,
new tool.
that's an all new tool. So yeah, so again, if you click on that, You might see, did they do one before, or did anyone do one before?
Well, if it says new tool, I hope they're not lying to me.
No, but what they'll do is the history of the kit. They'll indicate if it's a new tool or not,
Yeah,
like
I'm
at
not
some
seeing.
point through the history. So if I look at a Tallery, so I just did 148 scale SR71A.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we go back, a
Because I've got
Tallery
the.
did the tool in 1982.
That's the one I've got.
Yeah, so and then you see Tamiya did one with new decals, and then Testers took that Tallery mold. You see?
Yep.
So and that's how they do a history. But sometimes if they do exactly the same one, you'll later on see another box saying a brand new tool, like
Yeah.
if it's
No.
exactly the same type. So that's what's cool about it. You can really, and there's some stuff out there that's just like, stuff, speaking of ancient molds and that, stuff they rebox. That's like the molds from 1960 or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
That the SR71. I've got the Italeri 148 from
yeah,
way back, and that's on my shelf of. I won't say shame. I will say it is my shelf of delay.
yeah, yeah. Exactly, and that's
Yeah.
fine. But yeah, it is literally a rabbit hole.
Yep.
But you will enjoy it. And again, definitely one of those things when you have a couple hours that
Hmm.
you want to kill, have a look. There's some really cool stuff. We use it all the time here on the show. So
It's
very cool.
outstanding.
Yep. Okay, so that's what's hot at ScaleMates. So let's briefly pause for a word from our sponsor, and that's our good friend Anthony Goodman at Goodman Models, makers of the Super Sanding Box. These things are absolutely fantastic. They are a
I never.
plus on my bench.
I never thought I would. I bought the pack from
Yes,
Anthony because Anthony's was a member of our club, and he still is.
yes, he
Sort
still
of,
is.
and and I bought it at one of the meetings a couple of years ago, and I never thought I'd use them. I just bought them because I thought that was a cool idea, and I wanted to support Anthony. But I got to tell you, once I started using them, they are amazing. They're so good at cleaning up panel lines and cleaning up mold lines and seam lines and you name it. I mean, it's
Yep,
amazing.
yep. No, they're absolutely fabulous, and you can buy them as individual. There's basically 6 different grits that you can get. They're solid, perfectly flat plastic.
Hmm.
You can order them in individually. They come in 80, 180, 220, 320, 400, 600 grit. He's also got some factory seconds, but you can also buy the various value packs and value pack combo. So one thing they feature now is the Super Sanding Box Value Pack combo. So not only do you get all 6 super sanding blocks with a little legend and a guide for use, packaged in a very nice cardboard box, but you also get a 3D resin printed stand from Sean's custom hobby tools. And this is in a unique Goodman Models green that you can only get from there. Um,
Only,
only,
only.
only from Anthony directly. Sean's custom hobby tools. He's a great guy. He does some other really, really good stuff. And yeah, this is available in Anthony's titled Goodman Green.
Sorry, I love it.
I know,
Goodman
so
Green.
do I.
It's like Buffalo Aircraft
Yeah,
green, right?
yeah, exactly. So Goodman Green. But yeah, this is fabulous. So, and the stand makes it really simple to organize, and that it's something Anthony and I came up with to help with organization. And it's one of those things until you use it, you go just like the blocks. It makes perfect sense. So, for example, those you can get right now for $28.99 US plus $11.49 US shipping, and that's worldwide. And you can order those directly from him today, right now. He ships out every 2 weeks. You can also get them in addition to get them directly from goodmanmodels.com. You can get them at Wheels and Wings Hobbies, our good friends at FlexiFile, Forbes Hobby, Sunwords Hobbies. Section 8 in the US and Buffalo still has a few left, and also in Australia, 2 great stores down there, SJS Hobbies and Wargame Miniatures. Yeah, you've heard me talk about it a lot, and it's a great product. I
I did not.
absolutely
I did not realize that Goodman Heavy Models has gone international.
Oh, he is international. They love him. All our fellow podcast buddies, they have sets. Yeah, worldwide,
I am
absolutely worldwide.
impressed,
Yep,
deeply impressed.
yep. No, so he does a great job, great support. If you go to goodmanmodels.com, he's got some videos for use. He's also starting to do a gallery of his work. So he's only got one thing there right now, or a couple of things. He's added a couple. He's got his Aliens APC that he did
Oh,
last year. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous kit. We're waiting to take that to Wonderfest.
I hope that he's got it with all the lights on.
Oh yeah, yeah. The picture there include the lights and that. So anyway, so check that out at goodmanmodels.com. And as always, we thank them for their support.
Always,
Always, always,
always,
always.
always.
Okay,
Yes.
moving on to our topic. This is part two of a simply fascinating interview we started 2 weeks ago, the previous episode, with Tom Grossman over at TagTeam Hobbies. And Tom has been in the hobby business for a lot of years. People call him the Airbrush Whisperer because of all the airbrush sales and work he's done with that. He's done classes, all sorts of things. Absolutely great guy. Also does hand tools at TagTeam Hobbies, etc. Normally, when Wonderfest is going, he actually will do airbrush lessons, seminars and stuff like that. Obviously, that didn't happen this time, but I know he will be back. So definitely check out his site. So that's at tagteamhobbies.com. But we got into, Anthony did this a couple of weeks ago, and they got into kind of the, over the years, retailing and the challenges and things like that. And it was a very fascinating interview. And one thing I found is it confirmed some stuff I had suspected and from talking to other people. So I was really, really pleased to hear that it, basically, prove my point that about certain things with the industry, and especially some of the history. He had a long history with testers as a product demo guy and stuff like that. So well worth a try. So I'm going to shut up now, and here's the interview.
Yeah, no kidding. So that we actually I want to dig in a little bit deeper to that. Like you've been around, you've seen kind of a shift in the way things have been going, right? You obviously kind of were part of using the internet to connect to modelers back in sort of the 90s, but you're working in this and you're seeing this type of thing happen. And you mentioned yourself some changes. Can you elaborate a little bit about kind of how you saw things change?
Well, I can think of some of the things that I did see change. Not everybody who opens a store knows what they're doing.
Yeah, sure.
And, some of them are up and down in less than a year or maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of these companies, well, I'm going to chalk a bunch of this up to corporate interest. Because when I got started in things and started to get to know people in the industry, a lot of the companies were owned by hobbyists.
Ah.
And they were doing it for the love of the hobby.
So like your typical mom and pop shop?
Yeah, but you're a big manufacturer with a bunch of employees and you make this really cool stuff. And you're doing it because you like to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always thought, and at least this is my business model, if that's how you run things, the bottom line will take care of itself.
Yeah.
And that's how it used to be. But they were aging. And then these investor types started getting interested in things.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not hobbyists. They only care about the bottom line.
Yeah, making a product and selling.
Making money off the products. Yeah, that's their focus, not making a good product so we can make money. It's making money.
Gotcha.
And the product sort of gets sometimes pushed aside. And, well, so does the service sometimes too. So we started seeing a lot of that happening. And some of the bigger corporations, this was sort of some of the things that contributed to the demise of iHobby. Historically, the supply chain was manufacturer, distributor, retailer, consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these corporate types got involved and realized that, if we take the distributor out, that's money we can make.
Right. Is this with the advent of online selling or
Yep.
earlier? Okay.
Oh,
so
yeah.
when the internet sort of popped
made
up.
It so possible for them.
Yeah.
Because now the big manufacturers can have a retail arm. And
right.
the big distributors have retail arms.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of going through and supporting their supply chain and the mom and pop shops, they're selling online.
Right.
And, that wasn't good. And so if you had a store and that started happening, oh man, so many companies did it. Like Horizon Hobbies, they're gone now.
Mm-hmm.
They were a huge distributor, and they had a lot of RC stuff. They carried some of the water products, but I was giving them a run for their money at one point. Just little me in my garage or in my basement, yeah, think you bad? Okay. But I had the support of Iwata, and I was going to the shows and getting in people's faces, and
Yeah.
kind of a one-trick pony.
Mm-hmm.
So if you call me about product, it's something I've been using myself for years. So, I'm not distracted with the latest foamy P.51 or whatever. So, yeah, they started selling stuff themselves. Some of the other things that changed is, like the Tester Corporation. That's a classic example.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be a huge presence at the show. Did Ernie Pettit? He was Mr. Testers.
Mm-hmm.
And so he worked on the paints, the Aztec airbrushes. He was producing model kits. And they had a whole crew of these hobbyist guys that ran the show for him. It's a great big island of a booth.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they kind of got old, and these corporate types got more interested. And then Testers got bought up by Rust-Oleum.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that's when things really started to go south. It was back in the O's, it might have been.
Maybe the late aughts?
It could have been the late O's or the early teens.
Mm-hmm.
I had a really good relationship with them, and they'd send me paint and model kits for the make and takes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before I met Iwata guys, I was using Aztec airbrushes.
Right. Were you selling or retailing that or wholesaling?
No, I was just a demonstrator, and they had an endorsement program.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the other companies did too. So when you published an article and named their products in them, they would pay you.
Ah, okay.
So it was like advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that started drawing up. So, that's why I started working with Iwata, because they wanted to pay me still. So got to go where the money is.
Of course.
So anyway, Rust-Oleum buys Testers. I put in these requests for product for the make and takes, and the stuff shows up. And we were doing a B-17 fly-in in conjunction with Wings Over the Rockies Air Museum.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And this little airport whose name escapes me right now on the south side of Denver. And so, I said, okay, you got to send me some nice World War II fighter planes. Because we used to have a bunch of 172nd stuff. And, the kids would paint them up. They can never look like any box art I've ever seen, which I thought was great. And so these kits show up. Well, the box shows up, and I'm looking through them, and it's like, no, this isn't right. And it was a bunch of these metal pre-painted kits that you screw together.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, maybe you've seen those.
Yes.
Like, hey, what's going on here? Well, we went ahead and did the event because you got to do what you can
roll
do.
On.
And so I called the guy, my contact at that time, and he said, well, Testers is out of the model business. You got pretty much the last of it.
Oh, wow.
And if y'all out there are not sitting down, you probably should right now. Because the other thing he told me was they had all those molds for all those Testers model kits.
Because there was years and years of Testers kits, like
That's
70s
right.
and 80s, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bunches of them. And, compared to Bondi and Tamiya, well, those guys are kind of in a class by themselves.
Yeah.
But still, you can have a lot of fun with it. And it's about product, and you can work on it and paint it up, and it looked really good and made you happy and stuff like that. These corporate types took those molds and sold them for scrap metal.
Oh my goodness. Whoa.
So that's gone. I know people, and you probably do too, that would have bought those to hang them on the wall.
Oh, I mean, like some of them were classic. Like you mentioned the B-17. I'm thinking of those classic 70s kits where oh my god, the name escapes me, who did all those amazing inserts and the box cover builds. Shep Payne. Shep Payne.
Yes.
Those are the kits we're talking about, right? The ones that he
the old Testers kits.
Was he working for, I'm sorry, maybe he was working for somebody else, Monogram. But anyway, sorry.
There's big holes in my background, and we just fell in one.
I think so. I digress. I think I took us down the wrong I took us down the wrong path there. But anyway, Testers were classic kits. Everyone who's of a certain age built one as a kid or a
Sure.
teen or a young adult in the 80s for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and so they sold all the molds, and then they dumped polyscale as model
Yes.
railroad paint. Then they dumped Floquel,
Yeah.
and I know there's people listening that know what that was.
My dad's a model railroader, and he covets his last few jars of Floquel and polyscale, and they're
Oh, that's what I was painting with in high school.
Yeah, and they were
And
amazing.
They were. It was great paint, and I was in a small, poorly ventilated laundry room, so I guess I'm okay so far. But haven't noticed much else. So yeah, now they're dumping Model Master.
Yeah, and that and we've been keeping up with the news on that whole thing, and it seems like that they've just been maybe swarmed by all the small kind of boutique companies that have come up around them in the past 10 years, right? And they just decided.
Well, they've created an opportunity for those people.
Yeah,
because they keep cutting off all their paint lines because they're more focused on big box stuff. That's what Rust-Oleum does.
Yeah, so it's like craft paint, like home, like hardware, home improvement stuff.
Oh, yeah, rattle cans, great big metal-based rattle cans. That's what they want to do. And this model stuff, there aren't enough money in that for them. Because they aren't people that were in it for the love of the hobby.
Yeah, it was a business interest.
I can turn my hobby into a job, which really changes it. But, I'm still kind of having fun. At least we were back then, but not anymore.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, okay, bearing all the changes we've seen in mind, what do you think about what's going to happen, in your opinion, in the next 5 or 10 years or so?
Oh, boy. Well, if you'd have asked me this about 6 months ago, I probably would have given you a different answer.
Really?
Yeah. Well, the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's having a huge impact. It's impacting the mom and pop shops. A lot of the manufacturers they weren't considered essential.
Yeah.
So they had to close down. And a lot of stuff got jobbed out to China. There's only one model company right now in the United States that injects their stuff here.
Really? And who's that?
And that's Atlantis.
Oh, right. Okay. Atlantis Models.
Yeah. And everybody else gets it from China. And so they're dependent on what happens over there. So when it started going berserk in China, which predated what happened here, those factories got shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And so we saw a big dip in the supply. It's starting to come back up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's going to affect retail because honestly, I think it's going to be a long time before face-to-face is safe enough that some people are going to be willing to do it.
Yes. Yeah. I think, I mean, we're seeing every show being postponed or just outright canceled, and they're talking about plans for the next year. So I think we're all seeing the writings on the wall for shows and maybe even clubs, right? At the club level.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's that. Then there's eBay, which isn't as big of a thing as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But there's Amazon.
Yes.
And that's a problem because the stores can't compete with them. And then you got people like Great Models.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Oh God, what's his name? The guy that owns Great Models. I know this. It'll come back to me. Gordon Kwan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got these online companies, and it's nice. You can get all your stuff, and the prices might be a little better, but you can't go in and talk to somebody who's of like mind.
Yeah. That's right.
And, that's something that the retail experience in like a brick and mortar store offers that you'll never get online.
That's true. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that, that's going to go away. Mm-hmm. And I liked it. And I forgot about it when I could just, get stuff mail ordered. But it is fun to chat with your mates to find out about something new.
Oh, and a lot of stores will host club meetings.
Yes. Yeah.
And do they used to, and then they do in-store events.
Yeah, demos and whatnot.
Contests and make and takes and stuff like this to bring communities together. So we don't spend all that time just sitting by ourselves while our social skills erode. But oh boy, can I airbrush that stuff today?
Yeah. So are you predicting that as things calm down with the pandemic, will there be a boost in show traffic, club attendance, or
Wow.
what do you think?
I hope so.
I think
I
so
hope
too.
so. Yeah,
I think
I
so.
would like to think there would be.
Mhm.
Maybe people are understanding just how important that is to them. But then there's this other factor involved now too. That's a relatively new thing, and that's 3D printing.
Yes, for sure. And we've talked
Yeah.
about that a lot.
Oh yeah, that's already changing the landscape. Oh,
Mhm.
I saw this kit on somebody's Facebook page today, and it's a little Tinkerbell. It's a girl crazy. And so I said, "Wow, where'd she come from?" And the guy sent me a link. It's a 3D printing company.
Hmm.
So instead of, I was big into garage kits. Well, didn't do a lot of monsters and stuff, but I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And it used to be you'd get a sculptor and he'd create the piece, and then it would get cut up, or they
Mhm.
design it in pieces that fit together,
Right.
and then you would invest that in RTV silicone rubber
Mhm.
and start pouring resin into it.
Yeah.
Well, people got their hands dirty doing that, and now you get cramps in your hands from working your mouse because you're designing all this stuff online.
Do you think that there's sort of an inherent sort of different, like, creative difference in the two kind of methodologies?
I can't speak to that because I have no clue how to do that. I've
Like
tried
designing.
sculpting a few things. I've kind of got an idea that, well,
Yeah.
it's a lot harder than I know about. But, oh, yeah, I can't render something in 3D. Are you kidding? I'm lucky my website works.
Me too.
Dude, I just bought a cheap video camera to do Stone Age videos because the phone was just not working out.
No kidding, eh? That's funny. So I have a follow-up question about kind of the future, but
Okay.
more of the tools. What do
Yeah.
you see now, like sort of the early airbrush, and they're maybe a bit more difficult. You've seen some, like, the transition from like Iwata quality. What do you
Mhm.
think's happening with airbrush technology? Is there anything, or is it going to just be kind of a solid system that modelers can rely on?
The thing is, they're not that complicated.
Yes.
And with a few exceptions, they all kind of work the same way.
Uh-huh.
Really. How many ways can you skin a cat?
I don't know.
Not very many.
Yeah. So it's basically just been a refinement upon the same principle for like 100 years,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Well, it used to be the 0.18 was the smallest needle nozzle you can get. Well, now
Mm-hmm.
you can get even smaller than that. But that's
That's
just a
cool.
refinement
Mm-hmm.
of an existing design.
Mm-hmm.
It's not complicated like a combustion engine or an electric car, the space shuttle, or
Yeah.
something like that. You take an Eclipse gravity feed, short of desoldering the parts that make up the body, it's like 18 parts.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So how much can you do with that? You can make it more complicated. Why? Or,
Mm-hmm.
you can figure out how to make it cheaper. And a lot of what I'm seeing now is a lot of these Asian knockoffs.
Well, and I think, hey, you get what you pay for, right? They don't work as well if you don't have the real thing.
No, and
Yeah.
does it come with a parts guide? Can you get parts?
Yes.
Is there a tech support person you can contact that speaks your language?
Yeah. Good questions,
Or
right?
will even answer the damn phone?
Yeah.
How many of those do you want to buy?
Yeah. So just to give our listeners a frame of reference here, I actually damaged my HP C plus brush that I had for years, and I ended up calling Tom in Colorado to find the parts that I needed to repair it, and he answered the phone, and I talked to him, and he sent me the parts. And so that's what you get when you buy a real airbrush. When you buy a cheap one, it's good luck with it working. And
Buy it from a reputable dealer.
yeah, like
As
everything,
far
right?
as airbrushes go, the problem with buying them in the shops, if they don't have somebody in that store that knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
they're not going to have a good selection, and they're not going to be able to answer your questions.
Yeah, and that's part of that hobby shop experience that we talked about too, right?
It
But
is.
most,
It
you know,
is.
you do find people who are knowledgeable on that, but
Yeah, and my wholesale customers that do the best have somebody in the store that loves to airbrush.
mhm.
And the ones that really do good for me are the ones that love to airbrush with water products.
Mhm.
Because then it's like you have a champion in the store. So, you know, we have Hobby Lobby down here.
Mhm.
It's a huge, well, I think the hobby part of the name is an accident.
It's not referring necessarily to scale models per se. It's like everything, right? Crafts,
There's
loom
an aisle,
weaving.
yeah, there's an aisle of scale models.
Yeah, it's a sewing and craft booking
Oh,
and all
yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff.
and artificial flowers and craft paints and
Yeah,
scrapbooking. I
yeah,
repped some scrapbook lines and called on scrapbook stores, and
yeah.
you're going to have to buy me a drink for me to tell you about that. Anyway,
Okay.
they sell Iwata stuff.
That's
Well,
amazing.
yeah, now they sell Sparmax too, who used to make Iwata's compressors.
Okay.
So, but you know, yeah, you can go in there, and those 40 off coupons aren't supposed to be used to buy airbrushes
Mhm.
because Iwata has a price policy, and you're not supposed to sell underneath that policy. And if you use the 40 off coupon, you are. And so you're not supposed to be able to use those with Iwatas. But the point I'm getting at is, yeah, they got a handful of parts and stuff, but good luck finding somebody that can tell you if you're getting the right part, or even how this is better than what you've got now.
Yes. Yeah, there are definitely a bit of a learning curve to
Mm-hmm.
disassembling and assembling and taking care of your airbrush. And I think we're going to chat a little bit about that now because you've
Okay.
certainly done a ton of education and kind of resource and like customer support, right?
Oh yeah,
On using your tool and keeping it in good condition. Because
yeah,
you see those guys who get stuck because they don't know how to clean it and it doesn't work.
right.
Right?
Or
Number one problem?
oh, I feel so bad for them. I spend way too much time on Facebook. I'll be upfront about it. And a lot of that time is spent on these modeling and airbrush related groups.
Yes.
And somebody will say, oh, my airbrush is doing this or not doing that. And immediately there's this stream of, oh, you got to tear it apart and clean the whole thing. Maybe not.
Can you speak that a little bit? Like what are some of the misconceptions for using airbrush with like maybe beginner airbrushers?
Oh, any problem, you got to take the whole thing apart and clean the hell out of it.
Okay.
Really, that happens way too fast.
Yeah.
And no, you know, get a hold of the parts diagram
Mm-hmm.
and look at it, and you can, you know, and then you got to troubleshoot it. If well, like, oh, here's a great thing. Well, there's this rule of thumb. If something's not working with your airbrush, most of the time it's an easy fix and something you did.
Yes.
You did. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, actually, that's like the best news somebody could ever tell you about having problems like that. Well, if it's an easy fix, it's an easy fix. And if you did it, you can learn not to do that.
Yes.
So you have to figure out what's going on with it. It's like, oh, I clean my airbrush, and I put it back together, and air comes out, but I don't get any paint when I pull the trigger. Okay, that could be a couple of things. And the very first thing you should check is, you know, there's that nut that holds the needle to the action.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you forgot to tighten that, you can pull on that trigger all day, and the needle doesn't move.
Right. Yeah, you're not actually letting any
So,
paint through.
no, the needle doesn't move. It's shut off the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, go for the easy fix first. Take the handle off and see if that's tight. If that's what it is, you just solved your problem in like 2 seconds. And
Yes.
I've done that myself.
Oh yeah, I know exactly the issue you're talking about.
Oh yeah. Or, you know, I'm getting bubbles in the cup. And it's like, oh, your needle packing's bad. That's nowhere near where the bubbles are coming from through the air coming into the front end of the airbrush. And check and see if the front end's tight.
Yep.
Look and see if you maybe have some dried paint on the tip of your needle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just don't just think, oh, I got to tear the whole thing apart. And that'll take all the fun out of it.
Yes.
Especially
Yeah.
if you drop this, $35 nozzle and it takes a bounce, and that portal that opens up when you drop little parts and it bounces and
carpet monsters oh yeah.
Oh, and they get really big if you roll over them in your chair. Holy cow.
Yep,
Guess how
absolutely.
you know that?
We've all been there. So kind of what you're getting at for beginners is that you need to, if you want to look closely at what is the nearest problem, what is the
yes
to what your issue is, what is, instead of going right for the whole, okay, take it, rip it apart, try and figure out what parts do what, and then what would be preventing it from working, and kind of hone in on that and see if you can solve it and move to the next level if you can't solve it.
Yeah, troubleshoot it. Your car doesn't start. Did you look at your gas gauge?
Yes. Yeah. Start with the simplest question first.
Be fixed first. And get a parts guide and have a look at it. And it's really sad that, I know Iwata doesn't include, they used to have a manual with their airbrushes.
Yes, I remember that.
Not anymore. You have to go online to get it.
Now that seems to me like this is a cost saving thing. Like instead of them printing, they put the printing cost on you. But any savvy consumer or modeler who's trying to grow their skills and knowledge, it's one of those things you print off and keep kind of handy somewhere, right? So you can reference it.
Well, you should.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't looked at their website in quite a while, and I was on it today because I got a couple of airbrushes that had a problem I couldn't solve. And so I'm sending them in for the tech guru, the guy who helps me when I can't figure something out, because I can't fix these. Everything I've tried, even talking to him, I couldn't fix them. So I sent him in. So I went and looked at their website. And that's all up there. Not everybody's got a computer at their workstation where they're
That's true.
Parts.
That's
so
true.
Now all the airbrushes I sell come with a parts guide.
Oh, nice.
And they have my contact info, and you get in a jam, get a hold of me, and we'll figure this out.
That's awesome. Yeah, very good. Are there any other maybe common sort of barriers that you hear, like when you're talking to people or they're thinking about getting into it? Because I gotta say, I love airbrushing. It is so fun, but there was a learning curve. Yeah, like it really makes modeling, it's one of the most enjoyable processes that I've learned about, and I'm still learning. I'm not going to say I'm the master of all airbrushing, but I've really gotten into it. It is a lot of fun. So I don't know if it would be as fun without it. What are the type of barriers you hear from people?
The expense.
Yeah.
And they're afraid they won't know how to clean it. Imagine that. Well, that's realistic.
Yeah.
And, they're just intimidated, and they say, oh, I have no artistic ability. And I'm always like, are you sure you do? Have you ever tried? Why don't you sit down with me for a few minutes, and let's see what we can get you to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, and obviously you're trying to do a lot of education about these kind of things when you're at the booth and the make and takes and the demonstrations and the classes. You're trying to dispel some of that stuff. But could you maybe relate a few tricks for our listeners about how should we clean our airbrushes? Like if we're just using them.
Oh, okay. Here's a real good one for you. Changing between colors.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you really shouldn't be dumping paint out of your airbrush back into the bottle.
I've been guilty of that.
Yeah, I used to be too, but there's a couple of reasons not to. One of them is when the paint mixes with air, it starts to cure. And if you think about this, at least with a gravity feed airbrush, you're dripping the paint or pouring it into the cup. You just mix it with air.
Right.
And then if you pour it back into the bottle, you just mix it with air again. And then you poured curing paint into your paint supply. So
you're you're like making it sort of dry prematurely in the bottle.
Yeah. It's not worth it to me because paint's expensive. Maybe you noticed.
Yeah, it definitely can be, for sure.
Yeah, it is. and they got all these new ones now. And, oh, holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would say, yeah, just try not to do that. But,
Okay.
I used to come in after a long set, I'd paint one day and come in the next day, and my needle would be stuck.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, wow. Well, dude, that bowl was spotless when I put the airbrush down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking, okay, I must have missed some up in the nozzle. And so, I'll put a little cleaner in it. And yeah, try and avoid strong arming things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Let chemistry work for you if something's gummed up, like you left paint in it for a whole week while you were out of town.
I've done that too. And I've actually ripped the threads right off a nozzle with a little tiny wrench once. That was fun $50 mistake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the nozzle on a Micron, the list price is $66.
Yeah.
And, it's God, the thing's like 3 millimeters long.
Yeah.
So come on. So put a little cleaner in it and come back in about 20 minutes. And now we're back to that whole, you got to be patient to build models thing.
Yes. Yeah. Don't be in a rush.
And it should loosen it up, and you should be able to get everything out, with your fingers.
Yeah.
So that's what. So anyway, I'd come in the next day, needle stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Put a little cleaner in and come back, and everything's fine. And well, that was when I was painting a lot, and so I stayed up one night real late painting, which turned into real early the next day painting. So I'm starting to get kind of punchy, and I just blown a cup out, and that cup was spotless, man.
Uh-huh.
And so I put another bowl of cleaner in, and I don't know, I have no idea why I did this. But I sat there staring at the cleaner, and for some reason I just started working the trigger back and forth. No air, just working the trigger back and forth.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden I noticed this little plume of paint coming up from the back of the cup.
Oh,
where the needle comes in through the needle packing.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I'm awake now. Because there's my problem. It wasn't in the nozzle. It was back in that little channel that leads to the cup from the needle packing.
Right.
And bottle feed airbrushes have that little channel too. You just can't see inside them real well.
Yeah.
So that working the needle back and forth, that's part of cleaning between colors.
Okay.
And so, I'll spray it through, because when you spray it through, you're cleaning everything from the bottom of the cup forward.
Yes.
Well, paint still gets back in that channel back there.
Yep.
And so if you do that, work the trigger back and forth, you're getting that out of there.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And if you do it enough, especially when you're finishing up for the day, you'll come the next day and it's like a new airbrush.
Interesting.
So,
Can I ask?
Worthy with the trigger.
Work the trigger. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask you, what is your cleaner of choice?
I still have a bunch of Model Master Acryl around.
Oh, okay.
So I'm working through that. And I had a relationship with Acrylicos Vallejo for a while.
Uh-huh.
And actually, we had a not so successful attempt at importing it and selling it ourselves, but that didn't work out so well. So I still got a lot of that around. We'd see them at the show, and they'd bring all these samples, and they don't want to send them back to Spain.
Right.
And so they loved my guys, and they just give us all this stuff, and so I got lots of that around. So I've been using Acrylicos Vallejo airbrush thinner.
Excellent. That's the one that's sort of your go-to. What happens? Do you ever change it up? Like if you get, an issue, can you go to another lacquer thinner, for example, or do you kind of use the one consistently?
Well, if I'm keeping up with keeping the equipment clean,
mm-hmm.
the AV works fine. But if I'm using oil-based paints, which I haven't gotten to do since we moved, because I don't have a spray booth right now, I would go for like lacquer thinner and in some cases acetone. But it's flammable and kablooey and all that stuff, and the liver damage. So
yep, very toxic.
I'm doing that. But for those paints, that's what I'd go with. But as far as the acrylics go, it's the AV cleaner.
Okay, so with that, I just want to explore this a little bit. Like it basically depends on the type of paint you're using, is the type of cleaner you should be using.
Yes, big fan of manufacturers' recommended products.
Mm-hmm.
because you know it's not going to do anything unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's certainly that's my thinking. I know a lot of people are often looking kind of like for a budget solution, but
Right.
if you want something to work consistently, it's best to stick with the
Yeah.
the products intended.
Specs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I've been using.
So if you're, for example, if you were using the acrylic Tamiya paint, would you use the Acrylios Vallejo to clean it out, or no?
I have had one experience with Tamiya acrylics, and
Oh,
it was years ago at a trade show because the paint they gave us to spray with, it was like
interesting.
way too thick, and they didn't give us any thinners or anything.
Oh,
So in a pinch, we went over to the Tamiya folks, and they gave us a whole bunch of stuff.
mm-hmm.
So that's been my only experience with it, and
Oh, wow.
they didn't give us any thinner either. So I'd use tap water.
Ooh.
And hey, if you want a pebble finish out of your Tamiya, thin it with tap water. Bam! Works really good. But
I can't believe what I'm hearing.
it's true. Well,
Yeah.
that's what happened to me.
I can't believe you use tap water.
It smells different, and it kind of
Yes.
felt different too.
Yeah.
So, I got all this stuff on hand, and
You gotta work with what you got in the
yeah,
moment for sure.
paint doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
It is going to go bad on you, and if you think it's starting to go bad, do yourself a favor and just get rid of it.
Yeah,
Or
for sure.
set it aside to do brush painting with.
Yeah, that's right. Because you're going to be thinning it heavily anyway at that point.
Oh, and it's going to goop up, and at some point, if it does what's called a hard settle, and
Oh,
it sits in the bottle way too long, and all of the pigment and stuff is at the bottom,
yeah.
and the carrier medium is at the top, and you can shake and shake and shake, and it doesn't really mix.
Really?
It's over for that paint.
Really? This is interesting because
Yeah.
I have a few of those like kind of 25-year-old bottles of Mr. Color, and
Oh, wow. Well,
try it out.
I would not put it in the airbrush first. Just dip a toothpick into it after you can get it mixed up.
See
And
what
see how it
happens.
drips off the toothpick, and there's like no big chunks.
Yeah,
Yeah, big chunks. Yeah, you'll learn
it's
about
over.
cleaning your airbrush way too much.
There you
Especially
go.
paint bottles, not cleaning the equipment all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, do you have any advice or thoughts about when you're spraying metallics like Alclad or just whatever metallic
Ooh.
paint? So a lot of people
Alclad.
complain they can never really clean the brush. So when they switch to a standard color, they've got the flakes of the original metallic paint.
Right. Well, that tells you something right there, that there's going to be stuff hiding in your airbrush, which is another really good reason not to pour stuff out of the airbrush back into the bottle, because do you know where your airbrush has been? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, well, my situation's a little different than most people. And I was using a lot of pearls and metallic acrylics, and some of them weren't ground so fine. Alclad's a dream.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. Oh my God, and the chrome over gloss black. Oh,
yes.
It's like magic.
Delicious.
You just layer it down, and that chrome finish just develops before your eyes. And that was with a spray booth, so it wasn't the fumes that was making me all happy. It was seeing that finish develop. So I have a dedicated Eclipse CS that I put a 0.5 in for pearls and metallics.
Oh, interesting.
Because see, those flakes
Yeah.
don't flow too well through tiny parts. And for some of the pearls I was using, you pretty much had no control. You had it wide open to get it to flow at all.
Oh,
so
wow.
I put a bigger needle and nozzle, and you get a little more control. Alclad's ground super fine. Oh my God.
They seem to have the finest sort of flake sizing.
Yeah, because I'll shoot that through an HPC Plus with a 0.3, and it works just fine.
Yes. Yeah, that was nice.
Acrylicos Vallejo has a new metallic series, and those are ground real fine too. And I like color, and they have those color shift metallics, and I bought 3 sets. Well, I didn't have anything else like it, so I had to buy those. And I was shooting those through an Eclipse with a .35, and they shot great. And just for kicks, I put them in my B plus with a .2.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you had good control. So those pigments are super finely ground, and that's what makes the difference.
That's really
But
interesting.
yeah, for some of the less expensive ones, you should probably use something with a bigger front end.
Interesting. That's something I've actually never really given any thought to. Like, I thought the needle size really corresponded to the kind of the fineness of the line that you could spray. But it's
Yes.
interesting to think about the material you're spraying and then picking the appropriate needle. That's very interesting.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, a smaller needle and nozzle will give you a smaller spray pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to thin your paints a little bit more. But, well, this came up on one of these Facebook groups. This guy says, oh, do you think I'll get finer lines if I can get a smaller needle and nozzle, or some other gimmicky thing that somebody was offering?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was kind of in the mood that day, so I jumped in and said, all the gimmicks in the world aren't going to help you if you don't know how to control your airbrush.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to get finer lines, you need to learn how to draw finer lines. And that's get really close and don't pull back very far.
Yeah. Do you ever use the limit stop to kind of get a finer pattern?
Well, to get a pattern, I know how big it was.
Yeah.
It was, the last time I did that was for, I built up the Mobius Repop of the Wonder Woman kit for Airbrush Action Magazine. And I was putting these stripes on this octopus, on the octopus that's in there with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that time, Iwata was marketing this gadget called the triple action handle.
Oh, triple action.
Yeah. But actually it did 4 things. So it was really cool. And you put that on in place of the regular handle, and it had this big knob at the end, and you loosen the knob and you can pull the needle right out the back. Didn't have to take the handle off or anything.
Okay.
And so it had this big barrel in front of the knob, and if you start turning the barrel, as soon as it contacted the knob and started pulling it back, well, you just turned your airbrush into a single action.
Ah,
because
okay.
you're pulling the needle back and you put air to it and you get paint.
Okay.
So I was using that. What else does it do that's really nice? Well, you can tug on the knob and knock clogs off, but you can do that with the cutout in the handle anyway. And then it had this nice little thing in the back that you could put your air cap on if you took it off, so you could do really fine lines. So that's 4 things. But they didn't sell too well, so they discontinued it. But anyway, yeah, I used that to put the lines on that octopus.
So, sorry, I want to clarify. You wanted a single action method to get the finest line? Is that right?
Not the finest line. A line the same size.
Oh, okay. So you just wanted to be consistent. Okay. Consistent reproducing of the same thickness or width of line.
So you set the airbrush.
Yeah.
And that's the size line you get. And if you get this close, it's this big. And if you back up, it gets wider and more diffuse. And, it's just like an airbrush does.
Yeah.
So I've used that. I think I've used the preset handle. With a preset handle, you turn the knob at the end of it back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you adjust the position of the knob. And that controls how far you can pull the needle back.
Yes.
So with that preset, you'd pull back to the stop point. And you couldn't get any bigger.
Mm-hmm.
With the triple action handle, you would start off at the stop point, and if you pulled back, you could still get bigger. I hope that makes sense. So it was like 2 different sizes, the same problem, but they discontinued the preset.
Oh, that's too bad.
Oh, I got a couple if anybody wants them. I got a few left, and they're still up on my website.
Well, there you go.
So,
what about could you maybe I'm thinking again of beginners or just people who want to know, because I started out with the double action right away, and that's what I use now. That's what I know.
Oh my God, yeah.
When people are talking single action and double action, do we need the single action? Is there any benefit?
Well, you won't have to learn very much. But, take the plunge, spend the extra bucks and get a double action. And just learn to control the darn thing.
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be so much happier. It's not that you can't do stunning work with a single action airbrush, because I know some guys that have them, swear by them, but they know their equipment really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they can do that because they're very well practiced. But if you're a beginner, just go ahead and take the plunge and get a double action and learn to control it.
Yeah, it seems to me that the double action gives you kind of all the tool you need to really do, like, to really grow with, and maybe go from a beginner to an intermediate, or an intermediate to an advanced, or live in the world of the advanced.
Yes. Move along now. Move along. Yeah,
That's
take
awesome.
the plunge, get the double action.
Very
There's all kinds of people out there with how-to videos on YouTube.
Yes.
And, some of them are okay. I kind of like this Australian kid, Airbrush tutor.
Okay.
Yeah, he's all young and energetic, and he speaks Australian, so it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Airbrush tutor. And I like his stuff, the way that he teaches. And that's, if you sit down with me or in one of my classes, it's kind of going to feel the same, except I'm a lot more interactive than a video.
Yeah, that's one of the things about watching, maybe trying to learn techniques from YouTube, is that you can only take in what's presented. You can't feedback, you can't ask questions or get something repeated a different way. So I think we're all going to be missing those opportunities with meeting up in the club, at the show, talking to your club mates, going into the shop, but hopefully we'll get back there.
I hope so. Well, I'm trying to figure out how to do that online.
Yes.
But the solution hasn't come to me yet.
It's tricky, right?
Well, the students would need a camera set up that holds the camera over what they're working on.
Yeah.
So I can see what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'd also have to be able to look up and see what I'm doing, so they could see what I'm doing, so they could do it too.
Yes.
So yeah, there's some requirements on their end that I got no control over that.
Yeah.
And then there's how am I going to do a whole class? Is it going to be a big Zoom thing? And
it's one of those things that you can experiment with, but there's a learning curve with that, right? How to deliver knowledge through our sort of online communication, right? It's a challenge.
It is. And I've been accused of being a Luddite. And yeah, I'll wear that. I am. Oh man, I got a smartphone. I use maybe 3 apps on it.
Wow.
Text messages. I'll look at Facebook to look stuff up, Messenger, and Maps occasionally. That's it.
Yeah.
All this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they put it on there? I don't use that.
Somebody does for some crazy reason, right?
Yeah, and I'm probably missing out. But, geez, man, I'm 65 now.
Yeah. Well, there's something
supposed to be thinking retirement.
Yeah. It's, I think we've all been thrown into a world where there's if you want to explore these new things, it's a little bit of a learning curve, right? Learning new stuff. But
it is.
I think we're all missing that interaction of the in-person, the meetups, the conventions. So we just have to be patient, right? We're modelers.
That's right. Otherwise, you should probably look for another hobby.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, Tom, we're about. My mind's spinning a little bit. I guess I'll never drop any more leftover paint back in the cup. But we'll wrap up our interview. We'll wrap up our interview with what's currently on your bench.
Oh, well, I have a commission piece.
Oh, cool.
That's 3 months overdue.
Uh-oh.
And it's a piece of military hardware, and I'm building a 35th scale AH-1W Super Cobra.
Oh, cool.
For a vet pal of mine to give to a vet pal of his who flew one in the early O's in one of the Middle East campaigns.
Wow.
And so, he would have been happy with it out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, we can't have that. I want to build that guy's helicopter and make it as detailed as possible for him.
Excellent.
It's like shooting yourself in the foot several times.
Yes.
So I get this photo etch set for the cockpit.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. and then some resin stuff for the cockpit. And so, I'm working away at that. I've never done that much photo etch. Put these little seatbelt buckles together, and
Oh yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
holy. Well, there's pictures of it on my Facebook page, Thomas A. Grossman, and I'm public, so drop in there and have a look-see.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of let that get the better of me. And it was becoming a chore because I wasn't enjoying that so much. And then, all right, okay, so I got the fuselage together, and I got the base colors on it, and I was going to weather it up, and so I go to put the decals on. The kit decals were the exact same color as the light ghost gray they told me to put down as the base color. So you put them on, and they like, can you see this? No. Well, it's there if you bounce the light just right. So I was like, oh my God. So I went and I bought an aftermarket set.
Yeah.
And I take that out and I'm looking and I think, well, those look kind of blue because it's that low visibility markings. Yeah. So everything's shades of gray. Well, these look kind of blue. And I never should have let it get this far. I put a bunch of them down, like a bunch of them. And you couldn't see them very well. So I had to go find somebody to print me some custom decals, and lost a lot of time there, and I'm just parting with it. But in the meantime, I finished off this Games Workshop Storm Talon gunship.
Cool.
That I started a couple of years ago with a class because I just needed a break.
Mm-hmm.
So I finished that off, and then I got a friend of mine who works at a hobby town up in the Denver area to get me a kit of a Schwinn Crate Stingray bike.
Oh, okay.
So it's a 1/8 scale Schwinn. This one's a fancy schmancy thing.
Yeah.
It's got shock absorbers in the back. It's a 5-speed with a drum brake up front. There was a version that had a disc brake in the back, and it had a shock absorber on the front fork. And well, I was a doctor's kid, so I had one.
Oh, cool. Wow. What scale?
So I'm going to build me my lemon peeler, and I'm going to find a 1/8 scale girl to go with it.
Oh, okay.
So I have my bike that I had, and the girl came into my life years later. So
wow, perfect. Oh, it sounds like a lot of fun. So a few things on the go.
Yeah, and I just did get the new markings on that helicopter, and they were a little dark. So I mixed some of that light ghost gray into the future. And lightened them up a bit, and I'm ready to go after assembling that cockpit and putting the canopy on and the bits on the outside, slapping it in the case, and getting it the heck out of here.
Wow.
Everybody in the house is tired of looking at it and hearing it.
I think we've all had those projects, right? Whether they're commissioned or not.
Oh, yeah. It can take all the fun out of it. And I usually don't do military hardware, but, so I thought I'd help them out.
Yeah, right on.
So that's what I'm working on.
Oh, that sounds like some interesting stuff. Well, I really want to thank you for making some time to come out to talk with us at SMP, and really interesting stuff. I mean, the airbrush, such a key element of the fun.
It can be.
Yeah.
You can add a whole new level of realism to your kits.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if people want to get a beautiful Iwata brush, give us your links. Where can they purchase one from you?
TagTeamHobbies.com.
Yeah. And you guys ship worldwide, and you got all the latest and greatest goodies.
Yes. Although I have a new friend in Canada. Donna, I can't remember Donna's last name, at Maple Airbrush Supply.
Ah, yes.
And so, I wish I'd known that when you ordered stuff from me, because I would have sent you to her, because I would have saved you a whole bunch of money.
Oh, that's okay. I got what I needed, and I didn't care. Just wanted it to work.
If I get somebody from Canada interested, I'll say, hey, talk to Donna, tell her I said hi. And then if she gets somebody in Canada or in the U.S., she'll send them to me.
Oh, right on.
But other than that, yes, I do ship worldwide.
Yeah. Beautiful. Awesome. Yeah. And when the shows are going to be back up and running, hopefully post-pandemic, we'll be able to see at all the shows, and Wonderfest, of course.
Oh yeah. Well, it's scheduled for October, but we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, but next year for sure, right? Like
Next year for sure.
2022.
Oh yeah. 21,
Awesome.
20. I'm still.
Wonderful. Excellent. Well, thank you again for coming out. Really appreciate it. We hope you stay
My pleasure.
safe. And yeah, and thank you for the info.
Sure. Happy airbrushing, folks.
Thanks.
Adios.
Okay, we're back. That was an absolutely great interview. Well worth a listen. Definitely check that out. And as I say, check him out at tagteamhobbies.com. All right, now we're moving on to more of the host participation, which is our famous What's on the Bench. And, normally Anthony and I have just done a quick one-liner and we summarize. We occasionally talk a bit more about it, but my new co-host, because he wasn't a professional, I think that could charge by the word, if I recall.
Yeah, I'm not talking because
No.
I'm not being paid for this.
I see. Exactly. So anyway, I'll just cover mine, get mine out of the way first because I've been so busy. So yeah, more work on the Academy 135th Panzer IV. I've done the chipping and decaling. I've been following Panzermeister 36, who's a young guy out of Ottawa with a great YouTube channel on weathering. I'm trying to just follow and do exactly kind of his steps and learn a few new things. So I've done that. I got a lot more weathering ahead. The next step is actually painting some of the hand tools and the shovels and stuff like that. That's where I'm at. And then of course I mentioned the next kit's going to be the Horizon Model Atlas. All right, Jeff, I'm just going to relax, settle back, and let you go.
Yeah, I got nothing.
You got nothing. Yeah, the show notes say otherwise.
No, as I sort of tried to explain, it's a guilt and sorrow. That's what I'm dealing with right now. I have guilt and I have sorrow because I am. Unfortunately, I got dragged back into going to work for a contract position for a little bit of time, and it's taken.
And my opinion on that.
I know. Well, you are the god of contract work these days. So.
Yeah. Well, no, more. I said you're bloody retired. And I hope you asked for 4 times the amount. But anyway, that's another story. I know.
Actually, I didn't. The challenge I had was that the people I was, the people that I was able to get to take over from me when I retired, because of COVID, they kind of got hit with
no worries,
a waterfall, and asked for some help. So I came
you're
back.
Being very nice for that. Yes.
And as a result, it's kind of kicked into my work around the house and also work in the hobby room. And right now I have, as I say in my notes, I've got about minimum 10 models lined up along one side of the room, all at a kind of a hope versus fear stage. And I suspect all of us have hit that at one point or another, where where it is now, the model is looking pretty good and I kind of like it, but I'm pretty damn sure that I'm going to screw it up in the next stage. And the next stage for each of them is a little bit different because I have a pretty eclectic interest level in models. So I got this old Glencoe Curtis Condor, which was a god-awful kit, just a horrible kit. But there's only one kit of the Curtis Condor, and if I want to do a model of the Bird Antarctic Expedition, that's the one you got to go with.
Yep.
So I've been working on that, and I got it to the point where the fuselage and the wings, they're beautifully painted, beautifully ready to go. Now it's a biplane. I got to rig it. I got to hook it up. I'm terrified. I'm going to destroy this thing. I know I'm going to destroy it. So I got to overcome that. And I'm at the same time, I've got the Revell, which is an old fine mold.
Yep, the old fine
172
mold,
Millennium Falcon. And I'm really liking it. It's looking good. But that's a pretty big palette to play on, as far as pretty big canvas to play on as far as weathering goes. And I'm kind of at the stage where, okay, I have I gone too far? Have I not gone too far enough? That kind of thing. I've got a whole collection of 1/72nd scale X-planes. I love that whole era of experimental aircraft that are at a stage where I could really screw them up, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to go.
You know what? They're looking really good. You posted some of those at our club meeting not long ago.
Yeah,
they're looking really awesome. So yeah.
it's a challenge because they're the kind of plane where they didn't get a lot of use. So
No.
you don't want to do a ton of weathering, but at the same time, if you don't do something, it kind of looks like a toy. So you've got to balance that off. And I've got a Korean War patent tank that's been sitting there, and I like it. But to your point about weathering your tank and how much you enjoyed it, I'm just not sure how far to take that.
Well, you know what? And the thing about that is, if it's an old one like that and you plan on building a few more, use it as a test bed. I recently built a Panther, an old school Tamiya Panther, and that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I am at with it right now. I mean, I'm looking at it thinking, okay, when I stop playing with the smooth finish on the Condor, then I can mess around with the tank. That I'm sure all of us have multiple things we can jump to depending on our mood. I got this B.52, a 1/200 scale B.52 and an X15, and that's looking pretty good. It's real close, but I know I'm going to screw it up. So
no, you won't screw it up. You won't. You got to think positive.
That's never been my thing. I'm a lawyer. That's my whole point.
Yeah, you're a retired lawyer now. Well, you were retired, but soon to be retired again.
And I got a ton of old kits, as you said.
Well, I see some interesting ones. You got one of the Matchbox Flower Class Corvettes, eh? That was one of my dream kits when I was a kid.
I have a story about that one, and I've told it a couple of times, but I don't know that.
Please share.
It's I built it. It's the 172nd Corvette, and I built it back in the late 80s, early 90s, and I built it for RC. So I have it. It's all set up, and it works for radio control.
Okay.
And I took it up to a lake in the North Country, and was spinning around with having a great old time, and didn't think ahead. Didn't think ahead.
Okay.
Had plenty of battery power, but not so much as far as the radio control distance thing. So I had it going in one place, doing big circles, and when it was heading out away from me, it went out of radio range, and it kept going full speed across the lake. And this was the largest freshwater lake and an island and a freshwater lake in the world. It's,
dear.
It's Lake Manitou on Manitoulin Island.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked around, okay, do I have a boat? No, I did not have a boat. I had a rowboat. So I jumped in and I was rowing after this thing. And it was going straight in the middle of the lake, and it was heading straight to this other boat, which was a couple of guys from Quebec. They were fishing, and they had been drinking beer all afternoon, and they looked at this thing coming towards them. And I found out later when I caught up to them, they thought it was a beaver, and they tried to beat the crap out of it. They had their oars out trying to hit it. And it got close enough, they finally got it out of the water, and then they were tearing all the parts off, trying to find the switch to turn the motor off.
Oh, dear.
Which was buried in the hull. They didn't know how to take the hull top off. Anyway, by the time I finally got there, the model was a shadow of its former self, and
oh, dear.
It has remained that way for 30-odd years, and now it's, but it still looks pretty darn good. I mean, and I figured I'm gonna clean it up. So the last club meeting that we had online, I spent the whole time cleaning up this kit, getting it ready to start putting it back together again.
Well, that's awesome. It's stories like that you remember, and there's a huge love of Matchbox kit. There's so many people that actually build it, or still collect the kits. So yeah, again, if you want inspiration at some point, check out again, look on ScaleMates, see what's there. That kit came out in 1979. Wow. That's how old we are. So just saying. So yeah.
No, we're Stuart, much older than that.
I know, but we were building that. And then you've got the old mold Airfix Vulcan. You've got an Italeri 148th SR71.
Yep.
And some Monogram 148. So yeah. All sorts of test beds.
The F106, the F84, the F86. I got a few of them, and all of them didn't look too bad. And what I'm trying to do is basically clean them up, so my grandkids can see that you don't have to have it like the way I build them today. You can see the way I built them then, that kind of thing, and not feel, they have to live up to too much or anything. Well, not that what I build today is that great, but.
Well, again, as we always say, it's if you're happy with it, then that's all that counts.
Yeah, exactly.
So cool. All right, so yeah, you've got quite a bit. So we look forward. I did mention it pre-show. you're going to take some photos of some of these or some works or whatever you're happy
Oh
to
yeah,
share, and we'll do that because, and you'll also occasionally put some on the Facebook page for the group for the
I have
podcast.
very little pride, very
Yeah,
little
because I don't know
pride.
if I
So
mentioned that. That's one of the requirements as a co-host. Once in a while, you got to post some photos. So I don't know if I
perfect.
mentioned that before, but there you
No,
go.
you didn't. You didn't.
Okay, well, I just added that. That was in the fine microprint in the contract. So, okay,
I'm
things.
happy to make others feel good about the quality of their work.
That's what I usually say. No, that's fine. Okay, things we've seen. So our fellow club member, Michael Hill. Mike does these amazing stuff. He likes working in that like vacuform and 80, 60 grit sandpaper. He likes torturing himself, but
He does.
he does some very amazing kits, both him and his dad. But he had this tip the other day, and it was like one of those things that just you go, I cannot believe I've gone how many years without thinking about this.
Hmm.
So he's been working on an RAF executive transport. So he got some decals recently. And he says this, before I work with decals that may be tricky to fit, I make a copy of the sheet to use as templates. And he has a photo, and I put the link in. Here I am checking the fit of these custom decals under the engine pylon. As you can see, it need a wee bit trimmed off for a better fit. This also works well for a strip of windows as the decal may not match the kit. So like areas where it's like something's like by an engine or something, it makes sense. I
Yeah,
cannot
it makes
believe,
absolutely. It's
yeah,
funny. I think so many of us, because Mike's a member of our Facebook IPMS London Facebook group. I think so many of us saw that and just thought, "Oh man, head slap! This is so
yeah,
obvious."
exactly. Exactly. And it's like, yeah, he got so many compliments on that. And
Hmm.
he's got a few more tips we're going to feature in the subsequent shows. And I still have to get him on for an interview for the podcast. He's a hell of a
Yes.
nice guy. And he's done some great demos for the club. And he is a machine, both him and his dad. His dad's 90 years old and gotten back into it. And he's building just a ton. We made him an honorary member of the club.
His
And
dad, his dad is a great beacon of hope for those of us of an age who
yes,
really do kind of hope to finish their stash at some point.
yeah, exactly. Although most of us will have to be several hundred years old, but
Yes, there is that. There is that.
there is that option. But we'll talk about that another time. Okay, you have a couple of really cool ones as well.
This one, the first one I wanted to mention is again, it showed up in our Facebook groups, and it's probably in a number of Facebook groups for scale modelers. But I love Soviet era aircraft because, in many respects, so many of particularly their early planes, just looked like something out of science fiction.
Uh-huh.
And the ones that really took my imagination were the Ekranoplanes, with the planes from Beriev, and in this case, there was the Caspian Sea Monster, is what they called it.
Hmm.
It was an aircraft that flew about 10 feet off the water at 300 miles an hour,
Yeah.
and it launched nuclear cruise missiles. Honestly, I mean, only the
Someone,
Soviets would
someone was into the vodka that night.
only the Soviets would think this made any sense, but they made one, and it's a
Yeah.
prototype, and it's a Soviet Ekranoplane, Ekranoplane. Google it, and Google it. Link to the UK Daily Mail. I know that I can see you already, Stuart. You're looking the link, and you're hooking the
Yeah,
link
I've
up.
added it. It'll be on our show notes.
But it is just the coolest thing. Anyway, this plane. They made one, and it was being towed from an ex-Soviet, a Russian base, to a museum, and they screwed up. Something happened, and the tow cable snapped or something. It isn't really clear what happened, but the plane got loose, and it wound up getting marooned on a beach, and and it's stuck there, and God knows what's going to happen. But they have these great pictures from a Russian urban explorer who got into the plane and took all these amazing pictures. I swear, you look at this thing, it's the classic Russian blue-green color on the interior.
Yep.
It looks mint. Looks like you could just fire it up and take off if you could.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
But at some point, I have to get a kit of this plane because, I mean, honestly, there's no other thing like it on the planet. It is just the coolest thing.
Well, exactly. Now, again, we were talking about, um, you know, uh, um, I think Zavesta, wouldn't be surprised if they have one. And again, if you go onto ScaleMates, you do a search, you can always see if there's a kit there.
There is a kit there. I think it's like about $1 million. That's the thing.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's all resin.
Probably an all resin one, yeah. But you never
Yeah.
know. They keep producing these things. So, Zavesta and some of the other manufacturers are always coming out with some new things. And some of it, it's like stuff I'm going, what are they thinking? But I always assume if, they're doing it because they think there is going to be a demand, and that's what
with this story, who knows? There could be more of a demand, more of an interest in it now. But
yeah, this is what I say. They wouldn't produce this stuff if if they weren't. Yeah, I'm just looking here what they got here. Yeah, 1 to 144th.
Yep.
Zavesta's got some slightly different stuff. Oh yeah. It doesn't say when, but yeah, resin. Big deal, right?
Yeah, sure.
Just put your mask on, your chainsaw, and 20 grit sandpaper. You'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the other thing you have?
The other thing is your fault. I blame you entirely.
Yeah, we did talk about this a little bit, but let's
did talk about it. I have ordered the Mercury Atlas and Redstone rockets from Horizon Models, as did Dave Blappy Gertin. From so your kit that you received from your Australian friends has at least generated 2 orders, which is a good thing. And I'm really looking forward to both the better understanding the whole ordering internationally experience, and also looking really forward to getting these kits.
Well, exactly. Yeah, no, they're going to be fun. So
the one thing I can't find it, and I'm sure you'll start looking at some point. I really, really would love to get a companion 1/72 Gemini Titan II missile.
Okay, all our listeners out there, see what you can do. Let us know. Give us some feedback, and we'll see if we can make Jeff's day.
I've seen 1 or 2, and I also see that Horizon's coming out with, I think, a 1/72 Saturn 1B, S1B, which was always one of my favorite rockets, with all the fancy little tubes all around the side. So we'll see.
Yeah, there seems to be a real interest now in like real space subjects and that. So it's really good to see. There's actually a group on Facebook I recently joined that covers a lot of that. So it might be worth checking out as well. So
I'll look for that.
Yeah, look for that. Okay, so that's it. So for more modeling podcast goodness, check out our friends at On the Bench, the Plastic Model Mojo, and the brand new Plastic Posse podcast. It's a lot of P's.
That's a lot of P's.
It's a lot of P's. We want to hear from you. Let us know if you have any comments or suggestions. Email us at scalemodelpodcast@gmail.com. The Scale Model Podcast is recorded bi-weekly, and it's available where your favorite podcasts are found, as well as on our website at scalemodelpodcast.com, where you can also find show notes, photo galleries, other content. You can also subscribe to get notifications on all our updates, new episodes, and video content. We publish extra content and complete episodes on our YouTube channel. If you enjoy the podcast, and this applies to all 4 of the podcasts, do leave a review. It really does help for the automated algorithm to get the podcast out to more potential listeners. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe on Facebook. And we're at facebook.com/Scale Model Podcast, where there's always some interesting discussions. And as always, don't forget to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Scale Model Podcast. We really appreciate it. And as I mentioned, supporters enjoy early access to content and exclusive contents. So that's about it, Jeff. I think you did very well tonight.
I survived.
You survived, yeah. We're almost, it's going to be one of our longer episodes, some good discussions.
I have to say, my wine glass is empty, so.
Yeah, well, there you go. So that's
good.
The evening is good. You didn't have to refill it 28 times, so.
Nope.
That's
Not
good.
yet.
My coffee and rum are empty as well, so. That's good. No, we really enjoy having you here, and we're hoping to have you back on a reasonably regular schedule. We have to see what the overnight returns say.
Yeah, no, I expect not to be invited back. Don't worry about it.
Oh, I have a feeling you will be. No worries at all. Okay, so for episode 54 of the Scale Model Podcast, my name is Stuart Clark.
I guess I'm Jeff Highland.
Thank you, and be well.